You might have.
It was funny, I like got in the car, I was actually gonna take Jacob to volleyball practice, then he forgot his helmet, so he has to bike home tonight. So then I came back to hospital, John, time to for this.
Yeah.
But anyways, in that process, I was like, starving. I was like, I was like, going back, I'm like, no, I haven't think of fish. But I think I usually do more of a snack. My grandpa told me I do all the food for this, and him and his caregiver just ran out of gas. Always just go to Carol. So we're gonna keep this house, but it had like some old gasoline units, so I like dumped it in the other one and go to the gas station. But I've never like, I couldn't figure out how to like get it to.
Yes.
And there's two kinds like pull like a piece off. You know how there's like a thing in your to like not go. So anyway, I went to like worker. He was trying to explain it, but it didn't make sense. And another guy walked out. He's like, oh, let me, and he explained it to me. Oh, okay. Like,
Yeah, you know.
I took it over to them. Yeah, so it's essentially like on the like right beside the nozzle, there's like a little kind of black circular thing.
On the gas station.
On the gas, no, yeah. And if you pull it up and hold it up, then it doesn't do that automatic, no, the automatic release if it falls out, it turns off.
Yeah.
So you pull that up, and then it will just go. It's just a that was my
Now we know.
that was my best.
Okay. Well,
It's
I would
not
say
quite
that it's
six,
1
it's
minute.
6 now.
I think it's 65.
Yeah.
Do I follow the phone or the
The phone is more accurate than this, I think.
the Chrome?
Yeah. So I think you're
Well, it's now 6 o'clock on Thursday, 16th of February 2023. And we are starting our regular meeting for the Sunnyvale School District Board. This meeting is available in English and Spanish. And will the translator please give instructions on the translation services available?
Absolutely. Buenas noches. Se utilizará la función de interpretación de Zoom para soporte en inglés y español. Todos los participantes de esta llamada deben seleccionar su idioma de preferencia haciendo clic en el idioma correspondiente cuando el anfitrión active la función de interpretación. Dicha función está en el panel de herramientas en el icono del globo terráqueo. El modo de interpretación para esta reunión será el simultáneo. Gracias por su atención y colaboración. Good evening. The Zoom interpretation feature will be used in this Zoom meeting for English and Spanish support. All participants on this call must select their language of preference by clicking the language when the host turns on the interpretation feature. This is found in the world icon located on your feature panel. Interpretation for this meeting will be conducted simultaneously. Thank you for your attention and collaboration.
Okay, so opening, we are now moving to item 1, opening of meeting. I see that all the board members are here and Trustee Nancy is online today. And I see that everybody's here, so we can start with the flag salute. So please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now we're gonna give the Living Land acknowledgement. The Sunnyvale School District is located on the ancestral and unceded land of the Muwika-Ohlone tribe, who have peacefully honored and cared for this land for thousands of years. We recognize that every member of the Sunnyvale community continues to benefit from the use of the occupation of this land. We acknowledge our responsibility to learn from the wisdom of the Ohlone people and to consider how we might work to repair injustices and to move forward together in an honorable way. Now, approval of the agenda. It is recommended that the board approve the agenda. If there is any member of the public who would like to speak of this item, which is the approval of the agenda, please use the raise hand if it's online or just raise your hand here in person. Anyone? Okay. Not seeing any, board, is there any motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Perfect. So, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, the chair votes aye. And with that, the motion passed. Now we're going to up to the item 3, which is the study session. Today we're having a report on Sunnyvale School District Child Nutrition Program. And our presenters are going to be Lori Van Gogh, our Chief Business Officer, and Martha O'Rourke, our District Manager from Sauceda School Services. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I would like to introduce Antoinetta Machaca. She is the FS2 for San Miguel. We are piloting a new culturally diverse menu at San Miguel, and she's brought you some samples that she would like to share with you today. We also have Chef Larry, Armando, and Edgar to help.
Thank you.
Who is ready?
We're all ready.
Oh, well, yeah.
We're all ready.
You don't get a choice, you get it all. You get a, you don't get a choice, everybody gets everything.
We're not like the kids. We'll eat it.
Thank you.
Antoinetta has done an amazing job at San Miguel implementing the new menu.
Get the tell.
As
I
we
thought it
said-
was like little samples. I'm like, this is, we totally didn't go through this. It's like full lot.
You have to tell us what we do.
I believe you have chili verde, pozole, and quesadillas.
Any limit,
I
like?
think I didn't get that
Oh,
one.
yeah. Oh, this one, yeah.
How this thing looks like.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank
Are you gonna tell us a little bit about it or?
Yeah.
Chef Larry created the menu and the recipes, and we're piloting it at San Miguel, and I've worked with the principal at San Miguel and been sending out a survey to the students so we can get their feedback. I've been there every single Friday since we've done this, and just talking to the kids, they're so happy. At first, they were confused about the menu, but then now they're running to the front of the line to get what we're serving. Super excited.
How long did you say you've been doing it for?
We started on February 1st, so this is the second week
Thanks for
of our
working
pilot
hard.
menu, so. And we're going to keep it at San Miguel, but we're gonna switch cultures every single month for the rest of the fiscal year. And get feedback from the students and then deploy the most popular items to every school.
Could you expand on what you mean by switch cultures? This is, I want to say Mexican food.
It is Mexican, we're gonna do Asian, we'll do Italian, like just European cultures, European and Asian cultures.
Yesterday at the Equity Summit, someone asked if they would be exploring other Latin American cultures, El Salvador, Colombia, are those also on the list?
I mean, yes, I mean, we can take it into consideration, we also have to bring it at a price. And we also have to, there's certain state requirements about nutritional value but yes, we can definitely explore that.
This is also the size for ration for a kid, no? Like, this is one
No,
ration?
these are sample portions, the kid portions are much larger.
Oh, even the pozole?
Yeah.
The pozole, that's the size we serve for the children, but the
Okay.
quesadillas and the chili verde are larger.
But they only get one, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
If you get a second. Yeah.
Okay, I'd also like to introduce to you Edgar Ortiz. He's our new child nutrition supervisor. I'm thrilled that he's part of my team. So I would like to welcome Edgar and give him a minute to talk.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edgar. I graduated from San Jose State University. I'm not a Sunnyvale native, but I've been living here for over a decade. My passion has always been food and how it's able to heal the body. So that's why I started as a clinical dietary supervisor. But now my focus is child nutrition. I'm very passionate about education, and I have there's a lot of research about how children who eat a nutritious meal are able to excel a lot better in education. I'm excited to join this team. Thank you.
Thanks, Edgar.
Thank you very much. So now we'll move on to the next part of our presentation. I'd like to introduce Martha O'Rourke and Armando Robles, and they're going to do our food service presentation for Sodexo. Please do that.
Just want to say last year at the end of Staff Appreciation Week, we sent out, I don't know if Lori or anybody from the DO saw some of the stuff the kids wrote to the food service workers, but they thank them personally. They feel like they're the ones who they thank them for giving them the free meal. And they thank them for all the food, and it's like they have a real personal relationship with the people who feed them, so.
Which is great, and you guys have such a wonderful staff here at all the schools. They all have a passion. I think that with the facilities and things, they're gonna get better and things, but everybody's being pushed a little bit nowadays with all the new vision. Does someone have the presentation on? Otherwise you can hear me chit chat, but I wanna thank all of you guys. I think I know most everybody here. I've kind of been around for quite a while. I've celebrated my 38th anniversary with Sodexo on the 27th of January, so I've been around a number of years. I've always been in the K-12 market in the schools business, so I love to see new people, wherever Edgar went, that are eager to learn this business and be a part of it. I think we all start here. I know that it comes out of healthcare, which we get an awful lot of people that come out of there. It's a great industry. Remember, I messed this up last time, so let's see if I learned from here I am. So tonight, we're just gonna talk a little bit. Armando's here too to answer any questions, kind of the same format we went to last year, where you have a number of questions. I think you all received those back, so if we want to go into detail on them, I do have a copy, of course. I have lots of paper, because I've been around a long time. I use a lot of paper. Even my husband said, "You're gonna take all that paper with you?" I said, yeah, I am. So anyway, that's how comfortable I am with it. But like I said, we've worked with Sunnyvale a long time. Child nutrition is changing every day in the state of California right now for really positive. And California, or USDA is also a lot going on at the USDA level. This is their reauthorization year. So reauthorization means that they revisit the American Standards of Dietary and that kind of stuff. So we'll go along here. Simple agenda. I want you to meet the team. Then we're going to talk a little bit about your services here, program numbers, and then the offer, new equipment you have. You guys are getting some great new equipment, guys. It's going to really improve the program. Sodexo's partnership, kind of what our role is in this district, our goals this year, and then I left an appendix like I always do in the back in case you want more detail. So anyway, we'll go to the next. This is where did I point it? Where? That direction? Oh. Oh, okay, there we go, guys. So anyway, this is the child nutrition team. They're having an in-service. One of the parts of the new child nutrition in California is it's really easy to say we want everybody to be scratch cooking, but the goal is we have to get people up to speed, which means we have generations of child nutrition people that might have been working on campus. Kids started school all day and they became lunch servers and maybe warming food. They may not really know anything about cooking. It maybe was never really their aspiration. So one of the biggest challenges at child nutrition in California as you move to scratch cooking is to bring along the team, because that is your team. It isn't like you can go out and find all new people. They are your team. So it's so wonderful, Sherry left, to see someone with such a passion that's trying different things, because we can only go as fast as the team wants to go with stuff. So welcome to Edgar on here as well. Armando, you guys know, and Jeff Larry, he was here last year too. Lynn works virtually for us and helps support doing numbers and things and some cutting numbers for me to look at from an analytical standpoint, and then myself. So you have 32 frontline workers that are, I think, really eager to be learning a lot of new things. Child nutrition program is offered today. You have universal breakfast before school, at recess, and universal lunch. After school supper program, after school snack, and seamless summer. Someone asked, which schools are after school. It is Bishop, what are the after schools?
Bishop, Lakewood, San Miguel, and Vargas.
Vargas, we came off of it, right?
Yeah, but we're still in center.
We still have it, but Vargas is no longer area eligible. So you have Lakewood UCAP, right? So those schools are all right now after school programs. When we say they've come off of it, one of the questions on there, does everybody get it? We're changing demographically. As much as you guys see poverty, we all see poverty, we see homeless, but the census data, because it's really masked in all of the Bay Area, is a lot of areas are coming off of what's called area eligibility. And so they waived area eligibility all through COVID. They're now unwaiving, it's gone. And so they are taking programs off that no longer qualify. Vargas is one of yours, which means that you could not run a seamless summer program there. Area eligibility is over 50% of the kids are on the free and reduced lunch program, or the census data is showing those that there's a qualifying school. It's happening at all the districts, and it's federal regulations. So there's not a lot you can do. These are federal programs. But what you can do is, like you're doing at Vargas, is you've decided to fund it elsewhere. You're still giving the kids food and taking care of the kids. It just can't be a federal program. So, and then same with summer, same thing. So California Universal Meals, we're the first to do it. We talked about it last year. It was coming our way. It allows each student in your district one free breakfast and one free lunch every day. And that includes your transitional kindergarten kids. Gives all kids a better shot at growing up healthy and ready to succeed, and eliminates the stigma that keeps students from eating school meals. Because I think that has been one of the greatest challenges in child nutrition forever, is if not everybody's eating it, oh, that's the poor kids. That's really a bad stigma. So California is really working on breaking down those barriers. So it's a great thing, and they're also investing heavily to break down those barriers, which is a good thing. Provision 2, you guys are applying for. I think you've gotten your approval. Provision 2 is basically a program that allows you to collect applications this year. I think there was another question regarding what about, other funding and things. You'll still always collect the area eligibility, like through registration, and they can use that information for like getting internet access and things, or they can use their old free and reduced information if it hasn't changed. The advantage to Provision 2 is from a service perspective, because one of the hardest challenges from an operational standpoint at the school site level is speed of service. When you add out all these kids, like at a really low free and reduced school, all of a sudden the meal counts went from maybe 85 to 100 kids eating, a little over 100 to now 400 kids eating. It is kind of a challenge from a principal standpoint in getting kids through the line, because it's real easy for everybody just to go sit down and have a stack lunch. So it expedites speed of service when you don't have to put kids through a counting system. Because California is continuing to want free, reduced, and paid information so that they can maximize federal funds. So with Provision 2, it's now going to be a percentage, meaning if you run, I think, about 30%, 25% free and reduced. So 25% of a clicker number of meals served starting next year will automatically be free. Maybe 5% would be reduced, and the remaining 70% whatever would be paid. And so you're claiming based on percentages. It's also very advantageous in districts that are possibly more people are coming off the free lunch program from a qualifying standpoint, because you're set at those percentages for the next many years. And that is advantageous to the state of California, which is why they were really pushing for this, because they do want you to maximize the federal funding. So, and you don't qualify for CEP in this district. So that's the other community eligibility, is the other provision program that the state used. I think someone else had a question on that too. So as you can see here, reimbursement rates, we should all be clapping our hands right now. California really pitched in. They're up to $5.33 for every lunch, and $3.57 is what your total reimbursement is for breakfast. So for example, like for lunch, they're giving over $4 for every paid meal, California is, because it's such a little bit of funding from the federal level. So they really, for the free and reduced kids, the free was 89 cents for both breakfast and lunch, which is far higher than the state's ever given. And then they're really making it up in the paid kids so that every child has a universal meal. I'll just keep going if you don't have
So
questions.
just a quick question, those numbers, that's the federal and the state?
Yeah, added together.
reimbursement. And that's the reimbursement rate for the free and reduced or for
It's for
everybody?
everybody, absolutely everybody. What they did is if you got $1 from the feds, you'd get $4.33 from the state. If you got $4 from the feds, you'd get $1.33 from the state of California. So basically, yeah, in accounting for how Lori has to account for it between what account it goes into, state and federal, but in the end, every meal is worth that much money, so.
And that's right now because there was more exemptions, or that's like moving forward?
All waivers are gone, and this is the rate now. And the other thing is, if you're on summer school, if you have a traditional summer school, it would still have to comply with seamless, it would still have to comply with universal meal mandate. Otherwise, if it's just a program, an enrichment program or a math institute or something, you could only do meals in the summer.
Yeah, I just realized I'm not by my mic and it's not on. Okay, my last question. So if like that free and reduced students, like, is there a higher reimbursement rate or like it's this?
It's identical. You're gonna get the same. Yes, it is higher.
What was that 25% thing you were talking about?
So you're gonna get from the state of California, because they did not want this to be all just funded by the state of California. They wanted you to maximize how much the feds are gonna pay. So that's why they wanted, like, the 25% will be free. More money will come at the federal level. So they would get $4, let's pretend they get $4 around that from the feds and only $1.33 at the state level. But that paid meal is almost flip-flopped. You're gonna get, I think it's like maybe 50 cents from the feds and the whole rest of that up to $5.33. It's just funding. And to us in this room, it's just money. It's the same, if that's per meal, it's the funds.
Thank you.
Breakfast participation, I know there was another question like why we take out in between. There were a lot of waivers last year that you could stack up meals and send stuff home. You could take meals home. With all those waivers, so it's really skews your data a lot. Because one of the big ones is congregate feeding. You can't take food home now. You have to eat it on campus. And we know people loved, on a minimum day, they grab a meal and take it off with it and go home. You now have to stay on campus. Congregate is also a really important child nutrition thing. People should eat together. They should be congregate. And you also make sure the kids are the ones getting the meal, that it's not going to other people in a household besides that child. So there's a lot of really important things with congregate feeding in the wellness of a child. So that is really important. And then the other big one was, like, you could give a snack and claim it at the same time you gave a breakfast we called it stacking meals. Now you have to do them like 2 or 3 hours apart and all that stuff. So all your waivers are gone. So it really skewed your data. I think the important thing here to notice is the kids are taking your free breakfast and your universal meals. They like breakfast and they're buying a lot of breakfast, which is nice. I think it's also convenient for parents as they're heading to work. We're anticipating it'll continue and probably not go up as much next year, but level off. Lunch counts, same thing. Kids are enjoying the meals. Same data. On-site prep. We're working on it, and now, especially that we're kind of getting out of that COVID fog and moving on, there's not as much we don't want the prepackaged as much as possible. So they're experimenting a lot with programs that are there. We're trying oatmeal, all those kind of things for kids. That was another question. Kids can sweeten their own oatmeal if they choose to with different fruit that's available that day. A lot of them use applesauce and those things on it. Some just eat it plain, likely. Scrambled eggs is big, which is really nice to see from the people who are not as carb-based, but it does substitute out from a carb. So you can only do it a couple days a week on the federal regs the way they are today. And they're probably going to stay close to that. Breakfast smoothies we're doing. Kids love them, so we're trying to figure out ways to do them more frequently. And that's all based on staffing and time. Lunch, here's some new items, the taco pie, enchiladas, tamale pie, and these are at all schools, right now we're just at San Miguel,
We're piloting at San Miguel.
but the breakfast is at all schools.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. And then in the middle schools, we're working on the tofu, the vegetable soup, and the pasta bars, because those kids kind of like to have a little bit bigger portion and take more, so. Are there any questions on?
Could you explain what you meant when you said the scrambled eggs we can only do?
Well, you have to do 8 servings of a grain a week under breakfast specs. You can sub out, so let's say if you offer 10, you can sub out 2 for a protein. None of us in the room picked it, but protein is not a requirement at breakfast today.
The 2 grains are?
Yes. So, and I know none of you probably eat that way. And if you, okay, but the other thing is that unfortunately that it looks like it's gonna stay that way. I thought there'd be more against that in the new reauthorization. But there is a packet that you guys can all have, and it has a QR code on it. You can it's in the federal government, it's a time for taking comments. So you should make some comments if you're concerned about that. Because we have to, we're taking all funding now. We're not taking anything from the parents to buy stuff. So that means the government, and it doesn't look like they're gonna change the carb. I do notice if you saw in the news yesterday, day before, BMI is down since 2010 in the schools. And I think by them running that, they're starting their campaign that this is a pretty good diet with the carbs. So I don't know, the good news is they're going to look at added sugar at breakfast for cereal and yogurt. So I think you're not doing your cereals are all 6 grams or less of sugar, it's added sugar. And that they're going to look at, that's already how we align with the CACFP program. So I think they're gonna take the added sugar piece of the puzzle there. But it doesn't look like they're gonna do any sort of substituting out the grains.
The commenting, is that period right now? Is that
Yes,
happening?
and.
Could you maybe send the link to Mike that he can send it
Sure,
to us?
yeah, we have it, I'll forward it to you as soon as we get there, because it would be really good, they're anxious for the link, there's a QR code for it, and people should give their opinions, that's what it's
If you could share with
intended
Mike,
for.
that'd be great. Thank
Yeah, perfect.
Sorry, more clarification.
Okay.
So the breakfast must have 2 grains per breakfast offer?
Yes, well, 2 grains is 2 ounces, so it would be like 2 pieces of toast, or a bagel would count as 2 grains since it's fairly heavy. You're not talking 2 separate grains, but for example, a normal bowl of cereal counts as 1 grain. So you could either maybe give him a sausage, or you could give us cheese stick would be that protein, or you could give them graham crackers to make it 2 grains. And everything in child nutrition is whole grain. One of the things that's really important on the questionnaire is they're deciding if you can do 1 day a week, have freedom, like with whole grain requirement to make it only enriched, or do you make it 85% of everything you offer is whole grain every day? So that's important too to comment on and how you feel about that. I think 1 day a week is a little bit maybe kind of restrictive from a district level versus, let us do the menu planning to kind of meet the kids' needs on some other things, so. But yeah, and then you have fruits and vegetables, and the other thing with breakfast is they're not gonna require that the other vegetables before they allow you to have the starchy vegetable and potato. They're gonna allow you to substitute out the vegetable for the fruit immediately, and that could be a hash brown or something. And that would be your potato board in the industry, if you wanna know who's lobbying.
Yes, those are not vegetables.
So kids normally have 2 options every breakfast and 2 options every lunch, or?
I'll let Armando comment. The choices for lunch, how many choices do they have for
Right now,
breakfast?
they have 3 choices. So, and it's a vegetarian item each day, so.
So vegetarian, and then what about lunch?
For breakfast, they have 1 main entree, but they have cereal, they can get juice, milk, so they have.
So cereals every day?
Yeah, cereals every day.
And then there'd be some special in addition to that. That would be like oatmeal.
Oatmeal, scrambled eggs, French toast, bagel,
Sarah, you glad I have my paper here? I'm gonna tell you what's on your menu. He got all of them, the eggs, cheese and toast, so yeah, they're here.
So on the days that you do serve egg, cheese and toast or the breakfast smoothie, you have to make that grain that's missing up to the rest of the week?
No, you just, yeah, you're right, it's 8 total in a week. So you can substitute out, essentially if you have 10 a week, there's 2 you can kind of shift with. So it's all in the menu planning. One of the goals in child nutrition, I think you guys had some really good questions on that too, was kind of like, what about the pure nutrients? And what we know in child nutrition, or even any nutrition, it doesn't matter if it's a kid or an adult, is having a variety of things. Different colors of vegetables will tend to hit your targets that way. Years and years ago, it was all based on nutrients. And what happened was it was so confusing that it was really hard to teach people. So now by doing menu planning over a week, they're hoping that people use this at home too. If they try some orange vegetables and some things like that, then maybe they'll get some at home. If they try a legume every week. And that's really how good nutrition happens, is it's across the whole week of things. You know, you might have a special thing on a Friday night, but it doesn't mean you do it every night with the family. So anyway, okay, California infrastructure funds, they're coming your way and more will be on their way. The intent of that is to help upgrade your kitchens, and then also there's training dollars. I'm not for sure exactly how much the district received here. A lot.
The first one, we only got 25,000.
Oh, for the training dollars, and then the equipment. There is a new equipment grant that I'm projecting, you saw in your questionnaires, will be around $600,000 that you'll be receiving in equipment. And that's a commitment that you're going to put things that you can help get to the scratch cooking level of 40%. But they're really coming through with it. And the good news is, I've been reading a lot on the new budget and some of the problems right now in California. I've heard nothing that's gonna go against the plans for child nutrition. It seems like it's gonna be very solid. And you have upgraded $180,000 so far has been spent on equipment, which is just plain old awesome. And I don't need to show you. Bring the hot box over? No. Okay. So special events, you know, the Way the Pumpkin's always a popular one in this district. National School Lunch Week, Future Chef. I hope you're all joining. Do you have the date?
March 31st.
Do you guys all have that on your calendar? March 31st? You do now. Future Chef, and then taste testing. As you heard at San Miguel School, they're spending a lot of time. What we do know is we can tweak some things, like in a couple other districts we're focused on where there's high Indian population doing Indian food. And we're really taking the kids and ooh, that's not right, or that's good, or ooh, that's not. You know, so we're really taking that advice and doing taste testing before it just hits the whole, everybody gets it and no one likes it. And it's just, and we kind of get a bad reputation with that, the department does, so. There's National School Lunch Week. We're always excited about that. So that's kind of our role here, and we do anything else you'd like us to probably, but we don't supervise. That's probably the biggest thing is that we're in this state where we are not allowed to supervise, so our time is kind of, I'd like to say, getting you guys all ready to do it, but we have to rely on a partnership with the district to actually make it happen. We do a lot of menu planning, product sourcing. That is huge. I don't know if you've seen some of the new legislation that's starting in July of 2024 regarding California preferential and things like that. We're real busy with that right now because it's got a lot of nebulous language, like if it's the same quality, you have to give it rights here. Well, that's kind of in the eye of the beholder, is it the same quality? But California is really working on getting stuff back to the state. We'll be totally ready for that, but it is a lot of new laws are coming our way. We process all your invoices, so we kind of keep it simple in the food service department. We do a single invoice, we do marketing, we have program support, regulation compliance. We like to stay ahead of that. And we also provide financial expertise. I see a lot of programs. I work with Armando. I'm kind of, like what question on the grass-fed beef. We'd love to do grass-fed beef. It's a financial decision. So Lori may ask me, hey, Martha, what's it gonna cost if we decided to replace all of our beef with grass-fed? I would provide the district with the data for that, the financials, so you could make a decision on that. And would you get any more? The thing about here now is would you shift the kids where they all take the beef now and maybe not something like a plant forward item that might be less expensive? Would that cost more in food costs for the program? So those are the kind of things we have to look at. When we had paid kids, our whole focus was on trying to get more participation. They're there now, so now it's kind of almost like you have to manage your costs based on your goals too. Well, we should always manage costs, I didn't mean it that way. Do you have a question, Bridget?
I'm gonna wait.
Okay, good. So program goals this year is continue improving the menu, 40% scratch for cooking for breakfast and lunch by July 1. There's been a lot of CDE calls on kind of what that looks like. Most of it is still kind of fast scratch where you can cook off something like saute vegetables with something like start with a pre-cooked beef crumble and then do your rice, do beef in the bowl or whatever with it, make it, and then on it you would have steamed vegetables, but you don't have to just start with everything raw and peel your own carrots and do all that stuff, because that would be really labor intensive and probably not going to happen at 40% level, but definitely a huge accomplishment. The food recovery program, that's a little bit different. You're already recycling and composting and all that. That's one part of the law. There's another part that's the food recovery. You're tier 2, so that'll start in January of 2024 on any food that can't be reused or can you give it to a homeless shelter or something? Is there a recovery program? So we'll be working on that. Each of the communities I've talked to have a lot of ideas within their own communities. So those are coming our way. Continue to meet students with focus groups. We talked about that earlier. Continue to promote the program because no matter what, eating the same day 5 days a week can be somewhat boring after a while for anybody. We remember in college, you just kind of get tired of it, the dorms or whatever. Support, we're here to support you and to participate in the wellness programs so that we can move along in this journey with everybody else. So that's pretty much what Sodexo is here for, is to continue supporting you. And that's kind of it.
Public comment?
Right.
Is it about public comment?
And they want what to say. Okay, so now is the time for public comment on this particular item. Please use the raise hand feature if you'd like to comment, and if there's any person here that is going to talk about this particular item. We have one person in 3A. So please come, Mr. Barry,
Good evening, everyone. My name is Barry Conrad. I'm a father of 3 children. Can you hear me? No?
Sorry, I forgot to say that the time limits allocated for public testimony are 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes for the whole public comment section. Speakers are asked to give their name and affiliation so that accurate record is reflected on the minutes, and I have your name there. Per board laws 9323, the board shall not prohibit public criticism of its policies or procedures, program services, acts, or omissions. During public comments, we encourage speakers to discuss issues with civility, to treat people whose opinion differ from their own with respect, and focus on the ideas, policies, and values. And sorry to interrupt you. And do we have people online for this item? Okay, so perfect. Thank you. Can you please start again?
Sorry, my name is Barry Conrad. I'm a father of 3 boys, 2 of which that attend San Miguel Juntos program, and another one will hopefully be in the Juntos program next fall. I am also a pediatric dietitian, as well as a certified diabetes educator at Stanford Children's Hospital. So I feel very strongly in regards to food and nutrition in our children. To be perfectly honest, my kids do not go to the school lunch or school breakfast program on a regular basis. Although there has been times where they ate their lunch and then they went to the school lunch and had lunch without our knowing, and they still had lunch, and so that was good. And I think it was good that they weren't turned away. The things that I wanted to comment on is that I would like to encourage this pathway that we're going towards with increasing the nutrition and health of the foods that the kids are being offered. I think it would be great if we stopped juices and more whole fruits and whole vegetables. I understand that we need to continue with the flavored milks every so often, because I understand there was a violent protest of kids in Oakland with chocolate milk, and so once a week seems okay. But I think that's a good limitation, is trying not to have that too often. Being a parent, seeing the kids after 2 years of COVID, a lot of children very overweight, have gained a lot of weight in 2 years because they were not moving around as much. We want to make sure that our school breakfast and lunch program is not contributing to that by making sure to provide healthy, nutritious meals for these kids, a variety of colors, which would be great. And because I would not like to see any of the kids that come to the schools in Sunnyvale coming to visit me professionally. And so if the board is voting on things to encourage the school nutrition, like to continue with more fruits and vegetables, I do see at the schools that there is a lot of sugar-coated cereal still. I still see that there's Eggos and waffles and stuff like that. And I think the scratch cooking is a great option, and I would like them to continue to do some of that, because that's probably encourage kids to eat the healthier stuff. So I'm going to stop a little early. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for coming.
you. And online,
We have Veronica Brand.
go ahead.
Hi, my name is Veronica Brand. I am also a parent of 2 children in San Miguel Elementary School. I want to kind of further second the previous speaker's comments about nutrition being incredibly important for our children. I'm heartened to see that California is now doing free our permanently universal lunch and breakfast for all students. And I think I really appreciated the change in the paradigm. I think last year when I tuned into this call, I heard that it was we're trying to reach, when you had to pay for your meals, you're trying to reach, get more kids to eat it, which meant you tried to entice them with like that greasy food like pizza and things like that. And I hope that now that it's not that requirement to pay for that meal is not there, and to entice eaters, that we're really serving them with scratch cooking and healthy, nutritious meals that are appropriate. Also, I want to just kind of encourage, and I see the target is 40% scratch cooking. I would love to see a long term, have that go even higher. And also to encourage a holistic approach to eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, including investing in school gardens that allow the children to see like where fresh fruit comes from, and incorporating that into their meals as well. I believe that will help kids take in more of that and be proud of kind of the food that they're eating. And just one more comment that I wanted to make is I think nutrition, being that we do have a responsibility to be serving very highly nutritious food. I noticed in a recent Washington Post article that reported on the changing FDA guidelines in the Biden administration, that they reported that low-income children and adolescents are more likely to be obese than their higher-income counterparts, according to the CDC. And so I think the issue of what are we feeding? We're providing free meals, which is amazing, and we really have to look at, but what are we feeding these kids? Because it really sets them up for later in life for not just obesity, but a range of whole other diet-related diseases later on. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's it, isn't it? No more? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming and talking about this. Thank you for coming in person too. Okay, so now is time for the board discussion, and this meant to be as a conversation. And we have approximately until 7 p.m. for this discussion. So who wants to start?
I have a question. So unlimited fruits and vegetables, does that include juice and raisins? I asked a question about whether those counts as fruit.
That'll get the juice. And the reason for the juice is because USDA today has a required fruit serving. And unfortunately, a lot of it just goes in the trash. We have to give the kids a fruit serving, but we can't make them eat it. And so that's where juice was the compromise. It's non-sweetened, was because so many kids, you give them a piece of fruit and they literally don't take it. But by all means, I think, maybe they're better today too. Because I'm also fully aware that juice is probably not a good option, and they're not changing that. Every child for every meal has to have a half a cup of fruit or vegetable on their tray in order to get a reimbursement, which is awesome. It's just that a lot of times, so at breakfast, they've been giving the juice because it just goes in the trash, especially at a breakfast where they have to eat, come and go. But you could easily switch back. It's really your decision on that. And then you could, and now the share tables are back. Are the share tables back where you could recycle it and then not eat it. But the kids do drink the juice, unfortunately. They like that, so.
I did look this up with the American Pediatric Academy, and they said that at most 1 serving of fruit a day can come from juice. So are they getting that 1 serving? And so that counts. That's what the American Pediatrics counts as a serving. But I do feel, and what about the raisins? Are the raisins, can you get unlimited raisins?
I would assume if they're on the offering bar, because raisins are dried fruit, and they have sugar. Use the dietitian. Yeah, they do have fiber with them. They're dried fruit. We used to give raisins, hoping that a box they'd at least take home with them and put it in there. With this whole, years ago, we weren't required to give a fruit, which is kind of sad, a fruit or a vegetable with a meal. The kids had a choice of declining or not to at least prevent waste. And now every meal, you can't, that's the only required component. Protein's not required, milk's not required, the grain is not required. The only required component is a fruit or a vegetable.
So it's figuring out how we get them to eat it, because that is the healthy.
Yeah, and that's how you get full. You're eating something that fills you up and doesn't have a lot of calories to it. But we'll hear a lot of times people want to increase the main entree portions. And usually it's because they're not eating their fruits and vegetables to go along with that. I'm sure you see that all the time.
Well, I think sometimes the fruits and vegetables that are available due to seasonal issues or cost issues, you can have an extremely tasteless apple. That are frequently on the menu. I think my thought about the food here tonight is delicious, and I really thank you for that. And I think the food in the pictures looks great. And I think it's possibly, it occurred to me when I was looking at it, it's possibly a bit aspirational compared to some of the meals that I've seen when I've gone to the campuses. They look a little different than that. But I think it's a great direction that we're going, and I really applaud it. I think that there were a lot of questions in here that said that we're gonna kick it to Sodexo, and they weren't my questions, but they were interesting questions, and so I hope that we get that later. Some of the ones that were somewhere it might have been answered in the presentation, but there were a bunch here. But my thought is, I'm interested in what's happening at the middle school, particularly SMS. Because it's a huge school, and I know that the area for food preparation and food delivery is incredibly small. I mean, it's almost comical for how many students are supposed to
quarter of the yeah.
And I saw in the packet review that it was that they quoted 4 minutes for waiting in line, and I ran into the principal yesterday, and I said, well, so because he was waiting for the line to go down, ironically, right? he and Jeremy were standing in the back, we're like, we're just waiting for the line to go down, which is like a totally great strategy for students and adults alike. But he said, oh, it's about 15 minutes when it's not, maybe pizza is just faster or something. But that's a big part of a kid's lunch. And, you know, I would really encourage the district. I know it's not on food services, it's not on you guys, but if there's a way to do a bag lunch opportunity for those kids who want to go out and run, we want them to go out and run at recess. We want them to socialize with their friends. And if the bag lunch is delicious, why wouldn't they just grab that? You know, why isn't there an option where they can do that instead of have to wait for, everyone likes hot lunch, and this is not the week to talk about not wanting hot lunch. But I would just encourage us as a district to work together on that. And I feel really strongly about it because I know in the afternoons, a lot of kids are hungry because they preferred socializing over that. And so that's one thing. And I don't know if it's, I did ask a question in the packet about, 2 lunch periods. I don't know if we're still in a situation where there's only one bathroom open at lunch at no school because of, hopefully they're no longer flushing fruit and, bananas down the toilet or whatever they were doing, where they only had one bathroom open for 1,000 students at lunch. So, I know that there's other issues that might be alleviated by 2 lunch periods, but if we can't do it, I would just really, I don't know if there's a way for us to work together, because I don't feel like I'm really concerned about the idea that we're not trying to get more kids to eat lunch or eat brunch or breakfast. I really think we have a bunch of kids who we need them to eat while they're at school, because instead of just eating Takis or, hanging out on the field. And if it weren't 1,000 kids at that school, I don't think it would get my attention as much, but it's a lot of kids. So that's just my take on today. And
So I think the difference is that we measured 4 minutes average wait time for a student, but the total service you're saying takes 15 minutes.
From the back of the line to get to the front.
Yeah, I think
To the back of the line.
We did do that on pizza day.
Yeah, I think we're not experiencing that very often, but it
Maybe
may
told me
take,
they average on a non-pizza day was 15 minutes to be.
Well, they can track it every day.
Yeah.
It's
Pizza day could be faster. I could, suppose everyone wants the same thing, and I could see that being much faster than the kid looking like, I don't know which one I want.
maybe, that's usually the longest line, but we can keep measuring, because I think that's important. But again, even if it's a 15 minutes of service, if a kid's waiting outside the line to get into the line, that's still waiting.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's
the line may take 15 minutes. Sometimes kids go do something else because they didn't want to wait. They'll come in later. Yeah, but if they had to wait 15, but we can certainly track it. You can also track it on each child on the POS system, what their time they were served at.
Okay, so quick follow, what the 4 minute, I don't know if we got that, what is that 4 minute window? What are we timing?
So we timed it from we chose a kid, towards the end of the.
At the back of the line, outside in that quad.
And then the time it took them to get that meal.
And then once they've grabbed their meal and they're now walking to join their friends.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but then
And
something made
then
me
we
wonder.
did it several times, we got another kid at the end of the line, and then the real line, got their meal, and then after.
So it sounds like that maybe it would be, right, there was maybe some that might be
Well,
taking.
and do some other
some
entrees
places
too,
And
you know.
trying out
We could try it if it keeps going.
The way you track it is you track a kid with the red shirt on or something, and you watch that kid all the way through. Because other kids, they do other things, or they visit, or they come in back and forth. They might go to the restroom or whatever before they go on the lunch line. The other thing that I think is really important in child nutrition is to make sure you keep the lines open. Because some kids do other things, or they're way at the other end of campus, particularly on a big campus. And so you want to make sure that you're open for lunch, period, in case there's the stragglers, or they might have had a club meeting or something, and then they all come in later. I see that particularly in high schools a lot of times, where they'll have 50 kids come with basically 10 minutes left of lunch. So it's important to make sure we're capturing all the kids on campus too, because they do have other activities.
So I'm just keep thinking, when you say that they needed 2 ounces of grains and, but a bagel already counts as 2 ounces.
'Cause
The
of the
toast
weight.
with the egg also counts as 2
Is
ounces.
one, toast is one.
So you need
Toast
to-
is very light, if you look at the calories on toast, you can tell it's a lot lighter than a bagel, you know, so.
So, and there are no other ways to add more protein in comparison with the.
Well, you can add protein to
bread.
everything, it's just a matter of, the portion, because if you put a bagel and eggs and all that stuff, then it gets, remember, child nutrition has calorie, I don't have the guidelines right in front of me. The presentations of calories are there, and they're not changing on the USDA calories.
Okay. Also, we are doing right now 40% from scratch meals, so that.
Not right now, I think you're pretty close, but that's July 1 is when, you're going to be started with
Okay.
the transition. That's why you're doing all the testing at San Miguel right now and the scratch entrees for the staff.
So that means, for example, if they get one of these size salad, that's the thing, and then they can have like a package, one of these pocket things that they have, they do like a pizza pocket thing. So that's already, that this is 40%.
No, the pizza pocket would not be, it's entrees, a side salad is a vegetable serving. It is the entrees, so there's a lot of focus on doing the bowl dishes like a cilantro rice bowl with meat in it or chicken or whatever. That's the focus on the scratch, or the entrees. So like, something like like spaghetti, where you put it together, you cook your pasta here, you wouldn't buy the pasta done, you do your rice for a rice dish here, and those kind of things, but it's the entree. So that's the
And a
goal.
few years ago, when they say pizza, the tomato sauce in the pizza, that counts as the vegetable service, that's still happening, isn't it?
No, you could, but we don't. The kids, the program here is the kids have an entree, and the entrees usually is your protein and your grain, because that's the two requirements there. And then you have a dairy product, which is your milk, and then you have a fruit and a vegetable. So yes, you're right, there is some in the pizza sauce, but it's not really counted here because we're no longer, an eighth of a cup here and a tablespoon here, we don't do that. We just put out the offering of fruits and vegetables for the kids. So, your calories for lunch are, at breakfast.
Maximum 500 for breakfast.
Yeah.
For lunch, it looks like,
Yeah, and it's a third of your RDA, so.
This is such a weird puzzle, like to be able to like put all these things together, and I guess I wanna know about the macronutrient breakdown for breakfast because it seems very carb focused, and also I'm curious, I know there's a limitation on saturated fats, but it doesn't look like we're replacing it with unsaturated fats anywhere within these diets. I don't really see that in the lunch offering.
Well, it's just 10%, the only things measured, and that's in the Q&A I gave you. And you have that, is that they're only measuring sodium. Ironically, in the new reauthorization with USDA, they're only gonna do one more ratchet with breakfast because there's data shows that they're almost there with the targets for breakfast. They're gonna do 2 more reductions of sodium at lunch. And that's probably because a lot of stuff has cheese, so they're hoping to move away from cheese and things that naturally occurring. But they don't go and look at a menu and say this much vitamin A, this much D. They used to do lunch that way. Today it's component based. So the only thing they measure is saturated fat and sodium and calories.
Hey, so I just
No,
wanted
sugar's
to-
not measured today, but in the new guidelines, they're going to look at added sugar. It's a goal.
in this year.
Yes, July 1. Assuming it all passes, but it'll just be for breakfast, the cereals, 6 grams or less for added sugar in cereal, which today I understand your cereal choices are that, so.
So I just want to do a time check. It's 6:57, so we want to try to end in 3 minutes. I would make a suggestion. I know with lots of questions, it sounds like you answered them all, but we just haven't gotten them yet. So maybe like.
Lori has
look
a,
at
I
them.
just sent it yesterday. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe like we look at them and if there are other specific, I think there's a lot of like detailed questions.
Yeah.
I think we can get answered offline from right here.
Absolutely.
I want to just really quick from the public comments, ask you to kind of touch on a little bit the cereals and like the Eggos and like the other waffle things. I know I used to like freak out about those, but they are actually they are not the healthiest option. Scratch is better, but I know that they actually have way less sugar than like the cereal and the Eggos you'd get from the grocery store.
Yeah, the
If you could
cereal, I
just touch
think-
on that a little bit, that'd be great.
What cereals are you using? Because only, but Kellogg's like,
Cinnamon Toast Crunch I know is one.
that's 6 grams or less of sugar, which is surprising. I think it's because it's got the cinnamon. I think it's really, and that and shredded mini wheats are also less.
Well, you have to talk into the microphone.
Oops, the shredded mini wheats in those, but I thought most of your cereals here were not using the sugared cereals,
Are we doing
above
like
6
Rice
grams.
or cornflakes, because those have really high glycemic loads without.
We're doing added sugar, not carb. I don't think cornflakes has an added sugar unless it's like, Tony the Tiger Frosted Flakes.
But I just think it's an interesting, helpful piece for a lot of people, right? That like, it is not the healthiest thing, but it is the Cinnamon Toast Crunch that my kids are eating at brunch at school is much healthier than when I give them Cinnamon Toast Crunch on Christmas morning. So like, it's like the like, it's not the best. It's not the best,
Yeah.
but it is not as bad as the stuff we see. And for a while I was really frustrated, and then when I learned that piece, I'm like, okay, at least that Eggo waffle that my daughter's having at brunch is healthier than the Eggo waffle I would go buy at a grocery store.
Because it is whole grain, but my thing about all of that is you have a choice of deciding, because I think that the gal that was on the phone, her input was great, is you're not looking for to drive participation. You want kids to eat though. We do want kids to have something they're going to ingest and eat. But I think it's a really good time to look at, do you want the waffle on the menu? But all those type of things on a glycemic index, some are just naturally occurring sugars, that is a carb, and not added sugar. What USDA is going to be looking at, same as they are with the child and adult care feeding program already addresses, is added sugar. And with yogurt.
And I think that Nancy just.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So Nancy?
Yes, I was wanting to make sure that when you were talking about Asian cuisines, that you were doing the diversity of the Asian community. We certainly have a large percentage in Sunnyvale who are of Indian cultural backgrounds. So I'm hoping that will be a pilot to entrees that would reflect more of the Indian subcontinent cultures.
Perfect. Yes, we're doing that in a lot of Bay Area areas.
I heard the kids at CMS really like the tamales.
Okay.
They were nice. I had one little tiny thing I wanted to know, since Lori has the purse strings anyway. Is there any way that we could find out? I know you said like if people want to add on a meal, it's $2.25 for breakfast or $3.50 for lunch. But if it's just 2 meals anyway, I don't know why they would be charging for the more expensive lunch. But I'm thinking of those kids who ride the bus. And like, I don't know if there's anything we can do, because some of those kids leave their homes pretty early on the bus. I don't know if there's any way, especially once we switch to like who gets to ride the bus, and based on all of our demographics and things, they're really far away. They meet all these other qualifying factors. I'm just wondering what the impact would be of like opening up where they could have that morning meal, and if they're still hungry at brunch, they could get brunch, That's more of a district question, not a.
Yeah, you just could not claim, because you're only allowed one breakfast and one lunch, and you're audited on that.
And I also, and I put it on the package, but I didn't get like, if, I know that you used to tell us that the lunch is $5.33 that we get reimbursed. Do we spend more on top of that, and how much is that, if we do?
Well, I don't know your numbers for this year. I can show you that like Sodexo for your food and supplies, obviously, I think it's great if you want to invest more into the food of the kids. But today, a lunch, it's $1.89 for food supplies, for any kind of Sodexo labor, which is just Armando and Larry, and then $1.59 for breakfast. So there is a big space here to $5.33. But remember, that's for all your employees, all your costs that are in the child nutrition program that have to be covered by that. So it's a decision you make with that,
Yeah, to measure that, we'd have to look at the end of the year and see what the total expenditures are. And the general fund makes a contribution to the food services budget. So we could see what the total cost is, but it's not something you can figure out day to day because there's
lots of
you know,
stuff, and
like,
equipment, repairs.
yeah, you go and buy a piece of equipment that contributes to every child's.
I think your walk-in freezer is being redone, right? I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
In order for us to make like an informed decision about like if we want to improve, how much we can improve, like how much are we giving, like, okay, this is our base. And if we give $1 more per child, what do we get? Or it's not worthy unless we give 3 times more, or it's actually gonna make a difference. Like we like, how do we make a decision on how much money we can allocate for that instead of, I don't know, for teachers or books or whatever? We want to know.
So this would be my, this would be my suggestion is maybe when we come up to budget in a few months, it'll probably take a 20-30 minute chunk of budget. And then we kind of talk about these pieces, right? Because essentially, like, I think all of us agree we would love to have the food be healthier and more delicious. But like what Isabel's saying, that will cost us more money. And so let's maybe set some time aside to have that conversation, right? To get the numbers and say, hey, this is how much we're currently spending, right? You know, she gave the example of like if we want to go grass, like fed, you know, beef, like she could give those numbers, right? Kind of to help us like, okay, like this is how much it would cost. This is what we're choosing to give up. And then we'll make those decisions, right? We'll make those decisions like, hey, like we want to, or like we want it, but we actually want the money somewhere else. So that would be my suggestion as we set aside some time during budget conversation to talk
and
about
if we move from 40% to 80%,
right?
Like what is the difference in
More
cost?
scratch
It makes, yes, it makes.
With how much more labor would you need? Yeah, what would your staffing look like to put that on the staff?
And how many people and where do we have space to do all that?
Or
And like, what do we need to do that? Like that's because we want to do castles, but and it's probably possible, but we just want to know what we're working with. And if we don't understand, I cannot just say like, hey, let's start organic tomorrow, all local, and we're gonna grow our own food because. So what does it mean? Where do we get the money?
Yeah, and what do you give up somewhere else? And the other thing is there's some things that I think that really don't cost much. It's just a decision of do you just want, you know, like cereal, you know, the 6 grams or less is what most places are doing, and that's all that's on the menu, so parents can be comfortable with that. Even if there's a substitution, they don't accept that substitution. So if cereal's out because there's a supply chain issue, we just don't bring it in. We just don't reject it. That doesn't really cost anything, except if kids choose not to take it. But I don't really think they choose not to take breakfast because their cereal choice wasn't there.
It's 7:05. I think this is an important thing. Maybe we can add a few more comments if it's okay with the presenters. 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes. And then because we have a light agenda today, is that okay?
What about 7:15?
Okay, 7:15. So we're gonna extend the discussion 10 more minutes and be able to hold it down, please. Thank you.
I really want to see a detailed macronutrient breakdown. I know this isn't something that we track, but I really feel like there's a lack of healthy dietary fats of either grass-fed beef or avocados or olive oil, something like that. And I feel like that would address a lot of Bridget's question about satiety, like if kids get more of these lower glycemic load food things for breakfast, I think that would help them stay full through the rest of the day. Here's where I'm coming from. My husband is a guru. My son goes to a Title I school that's in a food desert, or would be in a food desert if it wasn't for the Asian grocery store there that's vastly inaccessible to most people who don't speak Chinese. I want to bridge that gap. I want my son to be offered similar foods to my husband. I am not confident that the average engineer has a much more dignified palate than the average first grader. I feel like we need to get there. Like some of the kids at my son's school, they don't get other food than this. This is what they get. I want them to be full.
We can print that. It's on NutriSlice, right? You have that. It's there every day. It's the parents can see it on NutriSlice on each menu item, has the nutrients on it. It may not go into like the ingredients as far as olive oil and those things. It'll just say oil, you know, with the oil, but we can certainly get that for you for each item. We have it and the calories of it.
Yeah.
I think it's on the website too.
I really want to bring our macronutrient breakdown more into line with the thing, especially for breakfast. I think you do a particular unkindness to teachers when you send them to class on cereal. I have a child with ADHD. I know which I speak. And I really would like to see either some more protein options there, and I realize this is like a really difficult puzzle. And I don't know how to solve it, but, or just adding something more filling.
And it's getting the kids to pick the healthier options.
I do also want.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. Do you limit those other choices? You know, that's really a district decision. Do you take some of those off of there? Because there's always cereal every day.
Maybe we experiment,
Yeah.
right? 'Cause I think, right, there's the piece that like, Bridget, like we want the kids to eat, right? They need to eat. At the end of the day, they need to eat. But the ideal is they're eating and getting full with more healthy, delicious foods like tonight, right? Like all of this was like super delicious. I loved it all. But then thinking about my kids, like I love vegetables. Like of those 3 dishes, my kids would probably only have eaten one of them, right? Because the other 2 had too many veggies. So I loved them. They were delicious to me. I hope some other kids would like it. But when I'm being real, like my kids would have only eaten one of those, even though they're all delicious. So please pass to them that those were so delicious. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a dilemma because you now, you know, I've been around a long time, you used to have to sit and eat your food, you know, and now it's kind of choices on whether you choose to throw it all away or not too, so.
Another question, I don't know, again, this is a very complicated puzzle, but a lot of our schools have gardens and the teachers have, you know, done these things when they can taste a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Again, these, you know, small gardens, they cannot feed a whole classroom. They use tasting. Have you ever tried to, have been asked by any of the educators or the school sides to partner in some sort of activity towards healthier foods, like doing as a program together or something that is to be, it gets to be a little bit more educational for where the
school, but the 5210 program, there's the ones that come out and do a taste test and we would do fruit and vegetables, we provide it for them and we would do it for them. But since of COVID, they haven't gone back to us to try to do that. So it's something that we're looking towards doing again. And
we do, you know, naturally, when something's growing in a garden at home, there's a lot of it and it's abundant. So we try to menu, if you like, let's pretend if it's broccoli or something that's really in season right now, then we try to put on the menu too at the same time so they can try it. But the 5210 program did take seasonal items and then would go out there and have the kids try it. So that was really good. And that was through El Camino Hospital Group, so.
And Santa Clara, they have a farm that is actually in Sunnyvale, but outside of district. And they get the kids there and they put it in like as a part of the program and they do get produce from that farm and include it into their menus. Is there any possibilities for us to either use that one or do some activity close by?
You do buy a lot of local here. I want to say it was 40 tracking 40 to 50% of your produce is from local, but remember we also include Salinas. So local is the definition of locals within I think a 200-mile radius. So you are buying a lot of local, but you know, we've had a rough year. Guys, look at the stores with salad is horrible because of all the rain and all the other things. But as soon as it's back in, we try through our produce, a lot of it is already local. As far as local farms, yeah, if they're here, we talk to them. You know, there's not a lot of farming really close, but like when you get towards, you know, obviously towards Salinas and stuff, there's a lot of farming down there. And then the pit fruit, and those things, we do a lot of that out of Morgan Hill and stuff when it's in season. So, and you'll see that in the fall or when it's, you know, coming on.
Morgan Hill has that container garden where they grow their own lettuce. I think
the bio.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think what you're asking about was a partnership where kids can learn in the garden.
Yeah, they can be part of that, and yeah, that's also going to be part of my comments later.
Yeah, is that something that
hydroponics in the schools?
That would be a teaching and learning thing? A question for Tasha, or is that Lori? Like, can we find some
Well-
some connection between the things, because I know that summer programs, they have a lot of that, and schools have something here and there, but it's not part of the whole, like the two things don't talk to each other.
It depends on where you're coming from, like what's the interest? If the interest is locally sourced nutritious food, we can go after that. If the question is an instructional one, we go after that. If it's both, that's more complicated, we go after them together. So
It will be more
it's
about
probably obvious. but-
inspiring kids to eat vegetables because they see how they grow and they.
Then it gets to be an instructional question, so.
Yeah, and I know the child nutrition programs love to work when stuff's in season and the teachers are focused on it, because it's just really helpful.
So I'm hoping that that we can re-engage with the 5210 and do that partnership again. I'm not sure if how viable that program is, because it kind of dropped away with the restrictions from the pandemic.
What is there, like, and the cow is coming every year to, every other year to every school?
Is the cow back?
It's not that yet.
Oh, the cow's not back yet.
I've also heard from some teachers that they kind of miss the days when they could purchase a lunch. Can they purchase a lunch again?
Yeah, they can buy lunches, right, the teachers?
Can now purchase a lunch again?
Yeah, they just had to set up an account.
Yeah, they just have to, I think you're cashless, right? And there's a lot of places that move to cashless from a lot of security reasons too, and safety. So if they can get an account, yeah.
Well, I think
I've got just two things just really quick. One, and I think this would connect when we have a discussion about cost, right? Because I think sometimes the fresh produce options, aren't very flavorful or not very ripe. Just from my kids and other kids or whatever, so I think that would go along again with, right, like that would be a money piece or whatever. So I think, just want to make note of that so we can talk about it later. And then I just have one quick question related to it was mentioned a district menu advisory meeting for families. And that was something I hadn't really heard about, and I think a lot of families hadn't. So if there's a way to let us know about it and we can share it out with the community, is that something that happens once a year or?
It's once a year, like around March, that next month, that's when we're gonna have it. And it's normally posted on the menu when we put it out, and it's on there, so that's how we would advertise it.
It's usually here at the board, right? It's
correct.
The board.
Okay.
And we have it every year, and a lot of people don't.
I don't think the menu is the place.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hadn't, yes, maybe you could share it with Leah and Mike, and then we can help spread the word about it. I was like, oh, that sounds great.
We'll fill the room for you. Don't worry.
Perfect. It's really good to get input, and it's good also to have students there, because the intent of it is to make sure all the stakeholders are there, to give their opinions too, and their ideas.
Yeah. And I just want to say thank you, Inclusion. I know we've kind of said a lot of negative things, but it's not necessarily on you, right? Part of it is the choice of spending money, right? So I hope that you guys don't feel.
Oh, not at all.
attacked. You're
We
working
love
in a
the
framework,
collaboration
right? You're
because.
working in a framework that just exists,
Yeah.
and it's.
And you
the
can
choice
take whatever,
is-
you own the menu, it's your choices,
Yeah.
and like I said, it's really true, is that the barrier of participation has been removed in the sense of a free meal. So now you set your own parameters. Now you do run the risk of less people eating it, but is it what you want? And the message, and maybe they'll get used to it. There's a lot of studies out there that it just takes time to get adjusted to different things. However, if you have a group of kids and it's the only meal of the day, then it's kind of scary to do that too.
Tricky balance, yeah.
It's really tricky.
But thank you to all of
Oh,
you
you're
guys.
welcome.
And we appreciate the direction that we're moving. I think we're all happy with the direction we're.
Wait till those rotisseries come and we can use raw chicken, yeah. Oh, good.
Nice.
Okay, so it's now 7:16, and we are moving to the next item.
Let's do
I
it,
don't
5
think we need do we need a break? Okay, so we're gonna have a break. It's 7:17, and we're gonna get
Come
a
back in
5-minute one. We're gonna get back around 7:22. More pleasant.
I like the.
Yeah, I mean, like that's.
It's like a little.
Oh, that's like maybe my favorite. Then I love all the vegetables. That just felt.
Oh, that was good.
It felt, it was delicious because it felt.
It felt like a weird.
So, I mean, but all three of them, like, I really, but yeah, but like.
I knew It is 7:23 and we're back. So let's start meeting again. And we can now move to item 4, comments from the board and superintendent. So we can start down the line, Nancy. You're muted.
I've participated in activities for the Legislative Action Committee for the Santa Clara School Boards Association and meetings, and also had a meeting with our new state senator, Alicia Wahab's staff, chief of staff today, and that was exciting to get to know the legislators' priorities for our particular area. And with that, I am sad that I didn't get a chance to do the taste testing, but I'm excited that everything looks so exciting, bright, and yummy. From Sodexo.
Okay. Sorry. So I sent in my activities. I have a couple of announcements. The Sunnyvale Education Foundation has changed its date of the mixer, so it will be Thursday, April 13th.
Is this, you say mixer, this is their
annual, it's not really a fundraiser because they're just sort of having an event. It's like a thank you event and a community event. So that's what it is. So it's them and the community.
What's the date?
Thursday, April 13th. So it's the Thursday before break. Also, I spoke to someone from the community college district from De Anza Foothill, and they said that they could offer our district, like if we had teachers or staff who were interested in learning Spanish, that they could offer, they would need to do like a cohort of 20. They could do in person or online, and they'd be willing to work with us on that if we were interested in holding anything at our school sites. And they said just to let them know they're starting to make up their classes for next year. And Leadership Sunnyvale, the big thing for me was I did the poverty simulation last week, and that was pretty heavy. I did not enjoy it at all. It was completely worthwhile to do. Highly recommend it. It's completely painful. And it's a real empathy builder, and I could not believe how many emotions we went through. Like the whole room, there were people almost in tears, and this is like role playing, you know, with a purpose for empathy. And it was just really rough. And yeah, so I appreciated being able to go through that. And also the Equity Summit, I was really glad to see so much diversity and representation in the different groups of people who were there. And I appreciated being able to participate in that. So thank you.
I have an announcement, an upcoming event, which will be on March 16th in the Lakewood Multi-Purpose Room. It's going to be Overcoming Bigotry, a Sunnyvale Unity Series event that's been organized with the City of Sunnyvale. I think they've been the main driver, as well as Supervisor Otto Lee's office and the Fremont Union High School District. I've been doing a lot of promoting for that, I guess, talking about it in different places. I sent Jesus my list of activities. I was talking about it at the API Town Hall on mental health with Rokana. I was just describing what precipitated it within our community in Sunnyvale when this gentleman was walking in Lakewood Park and was assaulted. I also talked about it at the quarterly meeting of the neighborhood associations, and then again at Rotary. And I'm like, I've got it down now. I have like a script I go through, and it's fun. I was not promoting it at a different event I was at, where I was at a Lakewood PTA event and I was making pancakes for the staff for Valentine's Day.
Can you slow down a little bit for the interpreter?
Oh, sorry. I wasn't talking about this when I was at Lakewood. I was making pancakes with the PTA, but I saw someone that I knew because I didn't know him. I hadn't met him before, but I had met his mom. And I used to walk my son in from the car at Lakewood, and I would see this woman who was about 98 pounds, soaking wet, 5'0", little Vietnamese woman, and she spoke Vietnamese and I spoke Vietnamese. And the thing you do when you meet someone who speaks your language is you tell them your entire life story in 10 minutes. And so I knew her life story, and she was wonderful, and she reminded me of my grandma, and she was a refugee, and she came over in 75, and the word for refugee in Vietnamese is person who lost their country, Lý Mất Nước. And I hadn't seen her in a while, and I said to the man, I haven't seen your mom in a while. And he said, yeah, she doesn't go outside anymore. And I said, oh, that's terrible. Why? Is it COVID? And he said, no, it's because of the violence against Asian seniors. And I was like, oh, was it because of the Lakewood incident that happened in December? And he said, no, actually my dad got assaulted. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't hear about that. What happened? And he said, my dad was walking in San Jose and some guy assaulted him and told him to go back to his country. And that just like broke my heart, because then he said, but you know, it was his own fault. He should have been more aware of his surroundings. You can't just walk down the street without looking where you're going. And that broke my heart, because I guess that's what I told myself when I was walking down the street and got spit on and told to go back to my own country. And it makes me so sad that this woman who already lost her country can't take her grandson to school anymore. And my husband gets on my case about this because I get so mad about these things. And he goes, it's beyond your pay grade. By the way, everything's beyond your pay grade to make $300 a month. And he's right. And these are systemic issues, and they're not caused by any one thing. And I can't actually fix that Asian seniors get attacked and they don't feel comfortable going outside their houses, but it makes me so angry. But this one thing I'm doing, the March 16th event, I'm gonna go to that woman's house and ask if I can walk her to school. And maybe that'll make me feel better.
What time is the event? Did you say?
6 to 8.
6 o'clock?
It's at the school?
It's in the multipurpose room.
So we're kind of
Sponsoring
sponsoring it as
50
well,
people.
right?
Yeah.
There you go.
It's always not fair that I have to go after Eileen. Luckily, I'm not really saying much. I just, there was one thing that I forgot, but I just wanted to say thank you for the Equity Summit. I echo what Bridget said. It was a great event, and I just know lots of work by lots of people went into making it happen. So appreciative of staff, and then appreciative of all the people who like gave up their day, right? That's a lot of time for a lot of people. I just thought about it, like if we were to count all the hours of every person there, right? That's like hundreds of hours just in the event too. So I'm grateful for all of that. And that's it.
Okay. Well, I will send my activities. It has been a very busy couple of weeks, but to Jesus. There were actually 3 things I wanted to highlight. One of them, yes, was the poverty simulation that we did with Leadership Sunnyvale. And it was a very intense activity because, you know, you have every 15 minutes is a week. Every 15 minutes was a week, and then, you know, every hour is one day, and then you need to, you know, achieve so many things, but you don't have time, because if you go to the service office, then you lose already 1 pass. You only have 5 passes. If you go to work, you lose 1 of the 5 passes for transportation. So it's how complicated it is. And if you go to one place, they don't tell you everything. So, and then you don't have time to go to the doctor, so you don't have time to go and get food, or you don't have time because you're doing other stuff. And like Bridget and I started the game already as homeless. Other people started and then they got evicted. So it's a real intense situation, and very, you know, very, very humbling and very very good to have. And I thought like, well, I've been very informed because we've been visiting all these homeless all around, and and seeing the situation of children in different cities, and we've been trying to change the circumstances of the children inside the city that need to go to the shelter. Like, how do we change that, and why other towns are doing better than we are doing, and our kids are in this situation. But it's completely different when you do that. Like, this is another level of intensity. So that was very educational, and then we got to volunteer for 1 hour at with the communities service. Another thing is I reconnected with a friend, with another parent. She used to go to Fairwood too. And also this parent, she has 2 of her kids are African American. And she did have a very bad situation at Fremont High School when she used to live here in Sunnyvale, with one of her kids being attacked because he was badly injured. And that was a whole thing. So she moved, and now she's living in Cupertino. And now her smaller kid, who has the same age as my kid, is having similar kind of situation at Montesino High School. Montecito or Monte Vista High School. And they tell him, like, go back to your country and all sort of things, and go back to the back of the line. And they had to expel a few kids because they were calling him the N-word and things like that. That still happen here in the middle of Silicon Valley in our society. And well, not just like that, from my own experience, but also from, experience all around as Asians and Latinos and other races. So that's why it's so important that we keep moving forward. All our equity work and the anti-racist program that we've been doing, like in the Unity Summit that we work with that, and we've been bringing the community together to focus on that and work to change our future and the future of our children. So I would love to see these kind of things that we did during the Unity expanded more into the communities. If we can somehow, instead of just, one table per side, what if we do one side, something, maybe not this, but something that brings the community and gives, different perspective, as maybe like as we did with the homeless simulation, and some sort of perspective to other people, to have empathy for fellow human beings. So I'm like, what we're gonna do. Other thing, this friend that I was talking, that I reconnected last week, she called me because she is into these hydroponic towers, and she was offering me that her company is giving a $3,000 grant so people, each school can buy a $3,000 hydroponic tower with all the things that imply inside that thing, so they can start their own vertical gardens. But not just that, is that when they buy that, they also give for free a whole package of curricula that brings from like what to do in kindergarten all the way to 8th grade. For the kids have a nutritional activity and a science program involved with that, so they can have the nutritional part, they can have the experience of growing hydroponics, and then they eat it, and then they also have the curriculum behind that, because hydroponic it has a lot to do with the minerals and the chemical part, and it's a whole educational project that goes behind it. And but the caveat is that we also have the break next week, and I just knew this a couple of nights ago. I've been trying to talk, but if you can talk with the principals so they can apply for that, because the deadline is the last day of the month. So we're gonna be like, okay. Monday usually comes, so okay. Sadly, if whoever wants, they're gonna have to write the thing, which I think is just like 1 page long. It's not that complicated, but it's gonna have to write the thing during the break. So that's one of the things. So yes, that is nutrition, food, racism, and poverty. Great.
That reminded me, it was when Bridget mentioned poverty, so when you said it, like, I did that simulation a few years ago, right? And it is a very powerful, and I remember like after I did, I was like, everyone needs to do this, like it just, you understand at a whole nother level. And I know like a couple of our school sites, I think, did that, the Downtown Streets team poverty simulation for their teacher.
Bishop.
Yeah, I feel like it was like a couple, maybe just one, but I thought a
Yeah.
couple of them did.
Our management team did it, I don't know how many years
Yeah,
ago.
but I
that
think it
was.
is a good reminder to
5
circle
years ago.
back, like as much of
Yeah.
our staff and community who can participate in it.
Yeah.
Right, I think it's one of those, it's like a staff development that's not necessarily intentionally, it's not curriculum to like teach, but it like helps you understand in like a powerful way. So I'm glad that you guys are able to do it because it is a very powerful experience.
Okay, just real briefly, Dr. Dean is not here today, but I'm gonna send positive messages her way because she's the organizer of the Equity Summit. And I too was very, very proud of a lot of parts of it, especially the continually increasing diversity of the participants in it. I think we're doing better and better. We can still do better yet. Some of the ideas that I heard from you all are ones that Dr. Benson is going to push us to do. Dr. Benson was the facilitator. We've been working with him all year long. One of the things he told us was, he doesn't just fly across the country for any district. He works with a lot of districts. Some of them, they're checking boxes. He can see that we're making progress and committed to keep moving forward. So he wants to keep working with us. So that's why he flew across the country. He didn't do it for free, but he doesn't do that for just every district. And part of what he was talking about was, like getting it at the school site level. We were talking about maybe the next iteration is more students together or different ways of organizing the summit itself. So it's like really elevating the voices of students and of parents separately, then bringing them together. So there's a lot of thought about like, what's the next iteration, which all gets me excited because it's all the work that we're committed to. So Dr. Dean is at Disneyland, celebrating our distinguished schools, Cherry Trees.
Not just playing, huh, Jeremy?
What's that?
Did your son district?
Oh, I'm told that's where the state put the celebration of distinguished schools for Cherry Chase, Cumberland, and Fairwood. Those are our 3 recipients. So we're excited. We have small teams from each participating.
We
That's
did
it.
hear that our board sent board member.
Yeah, that's true.
It's okay.
Next time. We had a board member. Yeah.
Well, thank you. So I'll send my activities later. Now we move to item 5, and that's comments from the Sunnyvale Education Association. Do we have anyone online? Okay, so we move forward to item 6, which is comments from the California School Employees Association. Is anyone representing them online? Okay, thank you. So now we move to comments from the public. So this is the time to comment about things that are not on the agenda, and this portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for members in the public to directly address the governing board on any item of interest to the public. However, provision of the Brown Act, Government Code 54954.2a and .3 exclude any action being taken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. In plain speaking terms, the board can only receive information during this time. We cannot speak or talk about items that are not in our agenda. If you would like to comment on any item not on the agenda and you are in person, we don't have anyone in person, or if you are online, please raise the hand feature now. Do we have anyone?
No.
Okay, so as we don't have anyone, then we move forward to the next item, and we are gonna have tonight presentations. Item 8 is
Not presentations, review and discussion.
oh, I didn't change that. Review and discussion. Sorry about that. Review and discussion, and we're gonna have 8A is the board discussion on topic prioritization. And this, we're gonna present Michael and I, Dr. Gallagher and I. And during the last governing meeting, we opened the discussion and we opened a few items about what we would like to focus this year. Most of them might end up being study sessions like the one we had in food today. Others might be just a shorter presentation or another area of discussion that may not take 1 hour long, but these are things that we want to focus during the year. All of these are important things, and we can somehow, the fact that if we don't prioritize it today doesn't mean that we're not gonna look at them in any way. We can still focus on them. And some of these things we're gonna do anyway, like for example, as I was telling Michael, we have one of them is LCAP update. We're definitely gonna do 2 or 3 times LCAP during the year. So maybe I won't put my priorities in that one because I know we're gonna do it anyway. So I don't know, so these ones were taken from all of us and all of us had access and that they will write it down. I don't know if I just read them.
I don't think you have to read them, but I think Bridget wanted to add one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I guess I just was thinking like, we have some of these already agendized that are already ready to go, right? Like the staff has already prepared them. We're gonna get a presentation or we're gonna have something. So like, is it necessary for us to put our sticker by them or like, for example, the technology plan, we're gonna have a presentation on the technology plan or the LCAP update. Like, I don't know that we should.
Do we all know the sticker plan?
Yeah, so let me just
Let
for the
us
ones who don't know. So the idea was that we have about 20-something of them, and maybe we can get a little idea of what will be the most urgent priorities for us, so things that we really need to talk no matter what. But then again, like you say, like we are always gonna look at the technology plan. We know that the state is bringing a change on the math program, so we're gonna have to talk about the math program sooner or later.
We have child nutrition tonight.
And we have child nutrition tonight, it is there. And we're probably gonna check next year, not a presentation, but it will be something that we could each year have a little, update of what's going on with that. And we, like LCAP, obviously, we're gonna at least dedicate a couple of days only to LCAP because that's very important and it's the law. It's not just the law, but it's also very important. So maybe I won't put my thoughts into that one.
And Nancy, you'll communicate with Jesus and then we'll make sure that you get your 6 dots put up on the board as well.
Okay, so can we have a list that crosses off all of the ones that we believe are already being covered for this?
Yeah.
That would be a clean list. That would be very helpful, I believe.
You'll probably just have to do that on your own.
So no, I think let's just agree, like, we can say we can remove the child nutrition services one.
Okay.
Because we just did that.
So are we not wanting to have a
and I
discussion?
think-
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
So does
And
that?
yeah, what I was thinking that maybe we're gonna use this time also, not just to remove, we could remove those, but also to, like, if you have a favorite one, why do you sell it to us? What do you think that we will go for that?
Spend a few minutes and talk about these.
Yeah, a few minutes, everybody will talk about that. So I think, like math curriculum, I think whenever it comes, we're gonna have to learn about the new math curriculum, right? We don't have a choice, so that shouldn't go there.
Well, okay, so I guess what I'm saying though is that like what Nancy's saying is if there's stuff that's already planned to be covered, like staff has already prepared the technology plan or is working on it. Like, I think what I thought we were doing was looking at topics that we want to discuss or have study sessions about that might not, so that you can prioritize them. And by the end of the year, like the board might have more discussions and we might reshuffle again for the next
That's what we always
first part of the year. We always do that anyway. So based on what the next year's priorities are or whatever, right? So like, if you're asking us like, hey, what are the things that we want to make sure we cover before the end of the year?
Yes.
Like before the end of the year?
Before the end of the year, yeah.
Oh, I would say.
No, before December.
No,
I would
before
say before
December.
December.
Okay, before December,
Calendar year.
like I guess I just feel like having LCAP on there, Like, do we need to,
Yeah, I thought like, that's what I was thinking.
That's
Like,
fine.
LCAP is well obvious.
or child
Also gonna be
nutrition, I
required.
feel like probably next year we would check in,
Yeah.
right?
So just don't put your dot next to that.
Yes.
All right.
And we
Okay.
had a previous presentation on the bond and parcel tax.
Yes,
We just-
and by the time, if we're going for that next year, as we decided, or we were talking about, we're gonna have to have it anyway. So even if we don't put the dot, we know that we need to learn and go through that.
So the ones that we have planned or just did, like child nutrition, the bond and parcel tax, the tech plan, and the LCAP, those are on
Yes.
the next couple of agendas anyway.
Yes.
Is there anything else that,
For me, it's math curriculum, because that's gonna be a big one. We know that the state is changing the math curriculum sometime this year,
so you think we should have one? That would be like what you'd be arguing for?
That's a good one. I thought like we needed to learn about it and what it means. So we're gonna have to learn about it. I don't know if we have a choice to discuss it. I think
It's the same thing.
It's a
It's the
discussion.
same thing.
They're just gonna tell us do it and we're gonna just have to learn and do it, isn't it?
That's like what today was.
We cannot say no, huh? Yeah. Okay, let's just learn
Well,
about it.
let me put it this way, like, it is kind of analogous to what we just did. There's a lot of, it's a presentation, so there's a lot of information about just what is. But there's always some, how are we gonna apply what is, right? So we have some choice about food services within some parameters. With the math curriculum, it's gonna be pretty set, but we're gonna have some parameters that we can push within that too.
Like we might
So-
get a chance to discuss it before we approve it, is what you're saying, because there might be
Right,
some
but there
options.
also might be some like, how are we gonna supplement it? Or like, how are we gonna make sure that kids who aren't achieving are achieving more? Like, I don't wanna have the discussion now, but yeah, there's always more that you can do than just say,
Yeah.
yep, we adopt it.
So what's the timeline for adoption?
That keeps changing.
Okay, so that maybe,
It was last year.
right, that's what I'm saying. When is the next time?
So it's probably not gonna be for the next school year if it's.
I think
it's in
if
progress so
that's, I would say it's in the next 12 months. And then if we find out it gets pushed out, then we maybe push out our
far? Okay,
presentation.
so that one,
The
yeah,
fall
that
would
one
be
will move out. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we get 6 dots.
So
yes.
I have a question, so like, is in some year, so this is related to LCAP, so in some years, we have taken extra time to talk about it more, and some years we've kind of just done the required amount, and so I feel like that's not necessarily one that we wanna pull off, right?
Right.
Like, do we just want to do the required amount? Or do we want to put an extra time, because if we wanna put an extra time, I think that would be one of the ones we'd wanna put a dot on to prioritize extra time. I don't know if I'm off on that, Mike, or if that.
Well, this year we have the early meeting. This year we have the early preview meeting, right? That's what that
Yeah.
first meeting is. It's not just the 1-2 at the end.
But we don't have it as a study session like we have.
And also, your study sessions have been LCAP focused. We didn't call it LCAP, but we talked about English learners, that's the LCAP.
Yeah.
So you've been studying the LCAP all year long.
Almost in foster youth.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, just, if you feel like you want more, then put a dot there and we'll come up with like.
So
what
what's the
more is.
current plan that involves us during our meetings with LCAP?
April and I think.
Yeah, at least twice until we approve it, and then we approve it by June 22nd. It needs to be completely set down, approved, so we can send it to the state before the end of June.
Yeah.
And then
I'm
while
trying to
you're
find
pulling that up, then the other one I was gonna say, right, is the child nutrition, right? So are we done? Or do we want to have a discussion as it relates to budget? Because if we do, then I would say that would require
Staff.
extra time, right? So
Yeah.
that would be something that we would put a dot on.
Right.
So just things to like think about, right? Like,
Okay, there's.
So I guess the other thing is, do we need so while this may be important, to your point, Michelle, what is it that we need? Do we need an update? Do we need time to discuss? Because an update can happen in a variety of ways
Yeah.
that can be outside of a meeting time. Discussion needs to happen in a meeting. So
yeah, good reminder, like,
any of these that can be differentiated in that particular way, people have an interest about it, maybe we want to know more, and then based on what we get, then maybe that might become a priority for a group discussion at another point in time.
And that reminds me of what Mike was telling me about, because I talked to him really quick. I don't know if I sent you an email, I don't know what it was, or if I just said some words to you. I don't even remember. But somehow, I was telling Mike that the update that we got from Brant about transportation, right? With what's going on with our, with the changes that are gonna happen with the buses, that we might need a transportation update. Studies, discussion, some sort of, not just like, but some sort of discussion at the end of the year,
Okay.
so I would like to add that on there.
So what if we keep
isn't
the
it on there?
dots? So what if we keep the dots only for things that we want to at least give 1 hour? And then the other ones, we can then make another list for things that needs to be checked in a shorter presentation, 15-minute presentation.
So then the other thing that I would want to note is that some of these involve collaboration and engagement with another entity. So that while we may have an interest in it, it may not be able to actualize because we're not the sole party involved in this when we're talking about joining with other school districts. So it may be something, but it may be a journey, and we might not be able to actualize it even within the context of this academic school year or next year, just because of logistics.
Yeah. I have one that I would like to add. So probably sorry, I keep turning it off, I guess. So the one I would like to add, I guess we could kind of call it like media literacy. So like the question has is like, I would love to get an update on what we're doing related to media literacy curriculum and teaching in our district. And it's stuff I've cared about before, and I just had it on my radar, and I read an article recently, right, that was just talking about media literacy and the role that schools can play in increasing our media, and how we can increase media literacy curriculum. And I think it fits really well with a lot of stuff that we're doing, and it's related, right, to like how, like, media literacy is a huge piece, right? There's the misinformation stuff, there's the how we treat people online, that's how we keep our safe. There's so much involved with media literacy. But that's just one that reading the article was a reminder that it's something that I kind of want us to have top of mind. So that would be one I would want to add to the list.
So Michelle, I thought that discussion could fall under the technology plan because media is a component of that in what we're teaching students. But maybe I have a different perspective of what we're meaning by the technology plan, because it's the technology plan and the journey.
What I imagine what might happen after the technology plan presentation is the board may say, oh, we're satisfied, or they may say, yeah, let's go on for an hour. We'll know after the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying? Yes. Okay.
I was gonna say, like, do you agree with that like this media literacy would fall under the tech plan, or is that's something different?
Well, there'll be new elements and kind of repackaging is the presentation that we're gonna have in the sense that the pandemic, we kind of blew through all elements of our existing tech plan. And yeah, so we're planning to bring on March 9th during that study session, just all of the parts and kind of where we wanna go from here. Because to be honest, many districts are in the same position. We have technology in the field, we've taken huge strides, and now we're trying to make meaning of where to go next. And we want to engage our teaching staff, and we have elements in the LCAP about the cyber security, cyber citizenship, and the instructional use piece. So we have, John Watson and myself are designing a staff survey. So those are all the parts we're going to bring to you to kind of say like, hey, this is kind of what's happening. Are we on the right path? What other questions do we want to make? I guess I could preview a little bit. There's 3 pillars that we're kind of really looking at in the tech plan. I was looking at it right here. The 3 pillars are the instructional use of the tool, cybersecurity and acceptable use, and then this homeschool connection. That's really, I'm kind of convinced that's the next frontier for us utilizing the technology pieces. So the information we present will be under those 3 parts. We don't have a formal plan yet, but we need guidance now that we're in uncharted territories.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Those 3 again?
Instructional use, cybersecurity / acceptable use, and home school connection.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So hearing those pillars, it sounds like media literacy maybe is not really a part of that, and that would be under curriculum.
I think that it's not social media literacy, it's not like an app or something, it's about ingesting media in the world, like, I think media would be curriculum instruction.
So like.
And it could
reading
appear
the
in both.
newspaper and knowing what is true and all that kind of things.
Well, it's a huge realm, right? So like the cybersecurity lessons would be a piece of media literacy, right? Like if you have good media literacy, you would know how to be safe online is one component of media literacy. Like knowing what is misinformation, like knowing what are deep fakes, right? Like there's media literacy is a very huge kind of umbrella of this whole area.
Like I think I saw the kids as part of the normal English curriculum nowadays, but I don't know, they would be, it's not?
They don't get much.
They do get it, I think they do, I just don't know what, if it's every grade level or every
Right, that would
school or
fall
every
in the
teacher.
common sense media kind of modules,
Yeah.
but
I
we do
think
want to.
we can talk about this later. I'm just saying this is an important thing that I would love to continue this conversation on.
Yeah,
Okay, but not right now.
But just to clarify, I mean, just like so you're saying it's hit or miss, you're thinking of just talking about the overall topic in general, what we're doing, and what's available.
Yeah, and how do we ramp it up, like improve, like I think that's an important piece of educators.
We'll add that one to the list.
Yeah.
Jersey just adopted bipartisan legislation to add information literacy.
Reminder, we have interpreters. Gotta speak up.
Sorry, I think, so it is.
And we got the audience.
New Jersey just signed bipartisan legislation to establish information literacy education, something like that.
All right, I'll go right up there right now.
Okay, just write it at the bottom and then maybe we can go on, yeah, I think we all talk about this one, but do you guys want to talk about anyone in particular or?
So for the transportation one, for district transportation to support after-school programming, can I just put on there like / new routes, like update? Can I just make that like?
Make it a little bit.
Yeah,
broader.
just make, yeah, because it doesn't need to be like a whole different topic.
I'll just stand here and then it says. And I get a stretch with it. Thank you. Anything else that we want to add or?
There's like 3 that are kind of similar. Well, there's the after-school programming, extracurricular. There's childcare, there's after-school programming, and then there's after-school program support.
You just use this in the
No.
There we go.
So do we just want to have something about after school?
Well, I think what we wanted to specify is like, one is the part that we don't have enough, we have more kids than spaces in the after school, and some parents have come and asked me, like, as an issue of equity, people who needs to have a cheaper after school program cannot get it. Because they just, I don't know, they came later in the year or
And
they
childcare.
the waiting is childcare. And then the other one is another issue of equity is, kids who are behind or English learners, if they can have a good program after school so they can catch up. We talk about that in a different time frame during the year. Like how can we make something like, instead of not just stopping taking the kids out of class for the TOSAs, but instead of only doing that or maybe lowering that part so they can still have more time with their friends, having something after school.
And then the
Are we
third
saying
one,
combining these two?
and
or
there's a
one
third
separate?
one. And then also equity and after-school programs matching supply and demand.
Oh, then I'm missing one. What's the third one? Or the first one? So the 2 I see right here is
Yeah,
equity and
equity
after-school
and after
programs and
school.
extracurricular out-of-school time for kids.
Yes.
There's
So those
childcare.
are
On
mine.
the second page.
Yeah, and I suppose that has to do with childcare. So yeah, that one, childcare has to do probably with
And there's also the
that one we can take
SEF
down.
after school program support at the very bottom. There's a-
Nancy, do you want childcare as a separate thing or you want it with those?
I think that it can go with them because that's a part of the dynamic if we're planning.
It's extended day.
Yeah, extended
basically.
day.
Okay, so I'm gonna star like all, and then you said the SEF one?
The bottom, it's the last printed one.
They're adding to it.
Okay, so what I did, guys, is I start all four, so all four of those would be together as a, what was the phrase someone used after?
Extended day.
Extended day.
So can I suggest that we talk about having a meeting with Fremont High School, and the topics that we might bring up would be anti-racism, equity workshop, or
So that's on, Nancy, we have on there the equity anti-racism workshop with Fremont Union High School District Board.
right. What I'm saying is, why don't we? Those are possible topics of discussion, but I think what we should be doing first is to get a meeting, and this can be to engage to say that we want to have a meeting, and these are the topics that we want to talk about, and see which one bubbles up first.
Yeah, I think those three items: articulation from middle school to high school for underserved students, then West Side Education Authority update with Fremont Union High School and Cupertino Union High School District. So because that's also a joint thing within the staff, and then equity and anti-racism workshop with the high school district. So this is we can put them all together as some sort of partnering with the other related school district to make the future of our kids after they get out of here as good as it can be, and make sure that our kids are gonna be successful there, and gonna be treated equally, et cetera, et cetera. Like a more articulation thing together, and it's more a study between the staff and the board and the other boards.
So we're just gonna call it Fremont High School meeting.
So I put meeting with Fremont Union High School District.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have a question just for the stickers, like one sticker, are we allowed to put, like, could we
Yes.
put all 6 of our stickers on one thing?
Yes.
If we really wanted
That's
to?
a good clarification.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of problems with sticker rules
I
before.
know.
Yes.
You get to do whatever you want.
Yes, that's why I decided that instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we just have stickers, so you can put 2 or 3 in one, and then
Yeah,
choose
yeah.
what to do with them.
I'm not, I mean, I really want to talk about it.
It's good to clarify the rules.
Just checking it. All right, Camille.
Okay,
Are we ready?
so
They're gonna take a picture and text it to us.
So yes, Nancy, they're gonna take a picture and text it for you, so you can, before the end of the meeting, send that to Jesus, and just, we're gonna put our
So you're
stickers
talking right
here,
now, put
and
stickers
then
right now.
move on, and, you know.
Yeah, she should
We're doing stickers now.
She should do it right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has her stickers. Jesus has her stickers.
Just let me
Well,
know,
yeah,
Nancy, and I'll put them up.
So if I see a star there, it's grouped, so I'm not gonna put it there, I'm gonna put it near the group thing.
Yes.
Yeah, cause
Yes.
it's our, if
The
you
star
put a little
is
star. it
Oh,
means
yeah,
it's
yeah,
grouped.
so all four, so you could just put it next to the extended day thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just do that.
All right.
Mike, does that work for like that extended day, putting all that together, like?
We'll see when we get to it.
Yeah, you can.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
this is just a general impression. Right now it makes sense.
But if you were like, oh my gosh, it's way too much.
Let me know,
to
Nancy,
do.
which ones you
I
want.
don't know. Right now it makes sense.
Okay, so are you going to send me the picture? I have it. How are you going to send the picture to me?
Jeremy's doing that. I'm doing your stickers.
Oh,
you send
okay.
the
Well, I need the picture. I need the picture, and then I can-
We're probably just gonna do anyway, we have to.
Yeah.
Nancy, I just texted, can you confirm receipt?
Yes.
Stickers are going up.
We have stickerage.
You're gonna play by play.
It's an open ballot.
Well, these ones are the same, isn't it?
Wait, is
Is this by extended day or is this by summer school?
I don't think this is necessarily the same, because like this.
Wait, is yours by extended
just
day or
weird.
summer school?
Oh, this is extended.
Okay, because I thought that was where we
Yeah,
said
that
that these
is what
3
we
are the
did.
same thing,
Yeah.
so these.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not taking these notes, so you guys wanna put something together.
Is this by extended
Make sure you
day?
mark Make sure you mark them. Because I have to interpret this. I wanna make sure I'm talking about.
So Jesus, do you want me to
Yes.
talk to you, or do you want me to type it in?
No, I want you to just tell me.
And I see, no, I don't want that, because that's like my priority.
Okay, then that's what it means.
Okay, I want the bundle. extended day,
You want extended day? Okay.
today, yes. I want the bundle with Fremont.
Bundle of Fremont goes down here. Good.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah,
Graham.
Let's see. I want to have the transportation.
Okay.
And the ELL, and I have one more.
English. The English learner roadmap?
Yeah.
Good. You got 2 left.
I also want to have summer school. So I think we're probably doing that, but differently. And
Oh, I'm glad extended day. You could really blow everything up with that one sticker.
Or any tie.
district strategic plan discussion. That's something.
Okay, gotcha.
Gotcha.
Pretty good consensus.
Nancy, can you see?
Yeah, sort of. Okay. Gotcha.
To get a sense of the board.
That was good.
I'm usually slow with making decisions, like,
Huh?
menu, I'm always like the last one to know what I do.
I think we did pretty well with that. Oh, they're still voting?
So I was saying, like.
So, you know, if
first
they
one
come back
back,
and they
so
say
That's
they
not-
want to talk to us,
that's
then
not-
we try, right?
Oh, good. Ooh, we get our dog back.
Jeremy, cue the, what's
So
the?
that's, so by this time.
Jeopardy music, I'm like, what's that?
Yeah,
What's that?
exactly, together.
So you have to go back.
With me, and they are meeting as a.
Gender union, computer union as well, or is this?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they're part of the team together, so that's okay, we don't need to, I don't know if we're gonna have it with the board, but I think, yeah.
Because I feel like the EL roadmap and the newcomer, they're gonna be in there, but it's good being.
Are there more stickers to lay or to lay them all?
I don't know. I'm not. We might.
Maybe all the stickers have been expired.
On the beach.
Good job.
Ah,
Thank you.
well, how do you?
Yeah, we have an
President,
idea
Madam
of our
President.
priorities.
Good process, I think, don't you think?
Yeah.
Pretty good process.
Well, and I liked it that we were able to kind of look for groupings and themes.
Yeah.
Because that made it a little.
Yeah, easier to decide.
And like everyone said, like this will evolve as we move through the year, things might bubble up, but this gives us a good starting point to start planning.
So I think now we can move to the next item, which is review and
Good job, Jeremy.
discussion. Thank you, Jeremy.
Nice.
So review and discussion of the 2023-2022 board meeting calendar, then it's gonna be presented by Dr. Michael Gallagher, our superintendent.
Okay, so there's not a lot I have to add to this because there's a lot of questions through packet review and what's here. As I see, we have a couple of options and all of them are acceptable to me. So one is there's a sample calendar of meetings. That's one option. There's another option to add a meeting in the fall. We could add a meeting in the spring, or we could do both. And I suppose there's other options too, but those are the ones that I could see. So I've kind of shared the reasoning for the calendar that was developed, and it's really up to the board what your preference is. So.
Okay, thank you. So now we move to public comments on this item 8B. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on this item? If there is no comment but there is no one in person, but if there is a member of the public online who wish to speak to this item, please use your raise hand feature now. Anyone? No? Okay, then we move. Now, board, please share your questions and comments related to this item. Who wants to start? Bridget?
Yeah, so I am just personally, I think that it would be a mistake to reduce the number of board meetings we're having next year because we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of things we want to talk about. We're going to ask the staff to do a lot of things, and I just think it would actually probably look pretty bad if we said, well, we're going to reduce our number of meetings for next year because we're got it all figured out, or we're cool with that, or we want to go on vacation or whatever. So I just would really, I feel like just personally, I feel like adding the fall meeting back in at a minimum would be good. And in the spring, I understand the longer gap times, but I was wondering if, if we're talking about adding meetings in that aren't essential because there's nothing specifically due, like this last fall, I thought it was really helpful, for example, to have those extra meetings or to have those extra discussions about, the CASP scores overall from last year, and then to do like a month later, do a deeper dive on the English learners, and then, we're gonna have time to talk about the homeless and foster youth. So I really felt like it was a thread of conversation about how different groups were doing, the pressure wasn't really on the schools, right? So when the schools came in, we weren't like all over them about their numbers, at least I wasn't. It was more about like, hey, let's hear what you're doing and what fun stuff you're doing, and let's talk your ear off about whatever it is we're interested in, with your school. But it wasn't like really trying to understand or get a picture of like how students overall in the district were doing. So for me, maybe those meetings look different, maybe they're a slightly different format, maybe they're more like the discussion format, where we get some basic data and we have more room to kind of like build thought partnership. That would just be my preference in general. So, I'll go with the board, whatever the board wants to decide.
So I think I'll just share a slightly different perspective. I think I have a unique perspective because my husband, he works in city government, right? So I have the staff perspective in a relationship where there's staff and elected body. And right, if we're being honest, most of the work happens by staff, right? I think elected bodies play an important role, but the work gets done by staff. So I thought, it was interesting, like when you said, if we're asking the staff to do more, your thought was we should have more meetings. And I would say the opposite. If we are asking the staff to do more, we should have less meetings because there is substantial amount of work that goes on behind the scenes for staff. I wasn't
talking about the staff that was at the I was just referring to staff at the school sites.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, like generally, right? Like there is a lot of work that goes into a lot of staff members preparing for the board meetings. So I really like that. Like I want to support staff, right? Like staff is the ones who are doing the work. So I understand this perspective of it might look like we're not doing stuff if we have 2 less meetings, but I just don't agree with it. Like I don't think that's like I don't, right? And then also that piece of like staff will be able to do more work if we have less meetings. So I would, if our meetings needs to take a half hour longer because we're putting a little bit more discussion time in, right? Like I would rather have that than more meetings because of the prep time that is involved on the staff side for them.
And just to be clear, no one's talking about adding more meetings, and we're talking about taking away 3 from the current calendar, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's 2.
3.
Because, so this last year's, right, because we only do the second governance development every other year when there's a new board member, right? So from that perspective it is, but we weren't gonna have that extra day anyway, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So my vote would be to do it this way, see how it works for staff. And then we check in, right? We check in next year. And if we feel like we didn't get as much good discussion time, right? Or like maybe staff, right? Maybe there's something like that, then we can always go back to the doing 2 a month.
Well, from my point of view, I don't know, do you want to talk first?
I don't feel like I know enough because I'm new, but also I want to learn everything, and it's that like introduction piece, and I just want to learn more stuff, and if we're having more meetings means I get to learn more stuff, so I want to do it.
Yes.
That's fair.
So.
You can also
and,
meet with staff members
Nancy?
to learn more stuff. Like I did that tons when I first got on the board. Like I just would I think I met with Lori for like an hour and it just was like, teach me this stuff. And it was helpful.
Nancy?
So my perspective is it's easier to lead a meeting than it is to add a meeting, just in general. On having everybody's calendar here. I too would reflect that for a first-time board member, first year, having meetings that are manageable can really be facilitating. If a meeting's too long, sometimes it also makes it harder because there's so much more reading. If we're going to condense any meetings, I would ask that materials be pushed out to us in advance of what our normal packet review time would be. There are some things that staff creates way in advance of a specific meeting. And if the reading material can be pushed out ahead of time, that would be fabulous. What will happen is that, yeah, we have fewer meetings, but you're gonna really spend a lot more time in digesting information. And so the other thing is that the work doesn't go away even if you have less meetings. It just means that when we meet from our perspective, it's going to be much more intense and we're going to have to digest a lot more material in order to be really prepared for a meeting.
Thank you. So one of the things is that, well, we just saw a list of things that we want to focus this year, and we want to do them, we want to do all of them, and we at least have to, it was difficult to choose only 6 dots. So, and that's from now until December. And that's just one of the things, and we still want to do a couple of LCAS, we still have to do a lot of other things. There is a bond tax that is going to come next year that we know we have to do, we want or not. There is, when the math curriculum, we all need to learn what it is about. There are a lot of things that are not even in that list of 20-something things that we're interested. And as we were reading that, I just remember a couple of things that we talked during the Unity that didn't make the list. And a lot of other people in the Unity Summit were telling me a couple of things. And I know that we have talked like for community schools and parent participation and family participation. And those are very important topics that we've been talking during the year that we're very interested about, to see how we can add it and how we can put it inside and how we can incorporate into our plan as a board. So on one hand, it's like we have a lot to do and we don't even have enough time. So that's that. On the other hand, this is the only time when we can actually get to freely talk with everybody and know how everybody's feeling about everything. And how are your thoughts about extracurricular? How are your thoughts about math? How are your thoughts about, otherwise I just can talk with one person. And I don't get to talk, because if I want to talk about math curriculum, I cannot just go and talk, hey, what do you think, Elaine? Because then I won't be able to talk with anyone else. And if I want to know about that, this is the only time where we can actually freely talk about these issues and get a sense of, oh, I didn't know you were feeling about this. That's cool. Like, good point. I didn't know, because I don't share with your own perspective. We all kind of build our own universe, and we share with some particular people that may quite possibly have a particular point of view. And even though we as servants, we go outside and try to talk with as many people as we want and we can, and we are a very active board. A lot of us just go to the sites, talk with people, talk with parents. We go to all the PTAs. We talk with the community. Still, we don't talk about everything with the community. And so we get to know, like, you know, as you say, like, oh, you have a perspective because your husband worked in the other side. That's very interesting. And if we don't talk today, I don't have any time to talk with you about it and learn about it and know about your perspective or her perspective. And the story about the grandma in Lakewood, how will I know about that if we don't have these meetings? And I think it's important that we have this time to share. And we have this time to share our perspective from our own little trusty areas too. In that way, I think if we have more, I don't think that will affect that much time of what you guys have or your time to work for the schools.
You can't say more
because we
means
can-
doesn't affect their time.
Yes. And it's still.
We're here right now.
Yeah, we're talking right now. And I know it's.
Like, don't do it, but don't say it doesn't take more time.
I know, and it's in a way it's stressing, like, oh, we only can talk for a few minutes, so we don't stay that long. But then this is the only time we can talk, and I have so much, and I want to learn so much, and I really want to know what you think about this stuff. But you know, it's like we're trying to push it into this tiny little time, and if we talk too much, then we get kind of punished a little bit, like, oh, you talk too much, stop it. So there is that thing. So well, then let's spread it around. Let's just spread it over the years so we don't talk that much until 10 p.m. next time. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to say too, like, I appreciate you saying that, and I feel like, you know, but I feel like I just don't know how to say this the way I want to say it. Okay, so I really feel like if we have new initiatives next year, which I'm suspecting that we will, that we are gonna need to be brought along with what the district wants to do. The district's gonna have to be brought along with our feedback, and we're gonna be pushing something out to the community next year or the year after, whatever. And it's something that we're gonna be building together if we're gonna move into anti-racism, right? Like we were talking at the Equity Summit. So I just feel like, you know, maybe not everything is a board meeting. Maybe there's other things that are more like community outreach meetings, or maybe there's other types of things that we're doing. If the interest, like in your language, like in the district's language, if the interest is to provide a little more flexibility for staff when there's time to take it off, because the idea is like, well, nothing is really due in the fall, so it's not a necessary meeting, but, you know, I think what you're hearing from some of us is that, well, we appreciate that time. Maybe we don't put such a heavy demand on staff for that particular meeting. Maybe we find a way where we agendize something that's really more in a category that we can, you know, discuss amongst ourselves in an agendized way with some support, with a smaller group or something, you know, if you don't want a bunch of people staying here until late. I don't know.
And as you say that, just to finish that, like one of the other points is that we are working together, we're partnering together in a lot of change. We're doing all this anti-racial work. We are trying to figure out why our kids don't do that well in high school. We're trying to do all this stuff that is new, and we're doing it together. We all have a vision together. And it's because we meet and talk a lot, and we are getting this feedback all the time, and you convince us, and we bring ideas, and sometimes they're crazy, sometimes they're great, sometimes because we have this maybe overload of sharing, I don't know.
No, it's good, the sharing is good.
And
Let's see what
Nancy wants to talk?
Yes. So I think one of the things that we're missing from one of the proposals is to change the June 15th meeting to June 22nd. And I'm really in favor of that.
So that's the next one, right? That's the next one.
Well, but
So this is about the 2023, 2024, and it's on June 20th.
Right. But what I'm saying is spacing matters. And having enough time to, so what I didn't hear in this discussion yet, Mike, is how much time do you need in order to do some of the high level work product that comes out? Is this really going to enhance at certain times of the year?
Let me comment on that. I can speak specifically to the LCAP next year. It'll be a brand new LCAP. This year, we're just doing a revision, or not a revision, we're doing an update. So there isn't that much changing. We have to go through the process, but next year it's a whole new one. So that's why I think it's pretty important to have the 3 weeks between the May 30th and the June 20th meeting, if I'm looking at the right calendar. I think that gives us some time. If there's public comment or the board wants changes, then we have time. What's happened a couple times this year, and it's not a big issue that I don't want to overstate it, but there are times when you have meetings in 2-week increments. If something comes up at a board meeting and the board says, oh, let's bring that up next meeting, that's really hard because we have meetings Thursday night, then we have Friday and Monday to do the work. Really, agenda items are really due on Monday, and we're talking about the next meeting. So we're in a constant meeting cycle. So if, for some stuff that's fine, but that's why if you want to, it's actually quicker if you have 3 weeks in between, because then you can get it on the next agenda. I'm not suggesting that all the meetings are 3 weeks apart, but that's the advantage there. I do have what I'm kind of hearing is a consensus of the board is we're not quite ready. Like, we think we have a lot to talk about, especially in the fall. So let me.
Not a consensus, a majority.
Okay, majority maybe. Here's what I would suggest, and let me know what your reaction is. For the fall, we actually, the November 16th board meeting this year, or the November board meeting this year, was a business meeting, not a governance development meeting. So we actually, in the calendar that's proposed, we lose another business meeting that way. So what I'm suggesting is that we add back in a meeting in the fall. So then they're essentially every 2 weeks. And we add, I forget which one it is, we add a meeting back. And then we'd have about the same number of business meetings. Leave the spring the same, and then see where we are when we get to spring. Okay? I mean, does that sound realistic or reasonable?
Yes.
I just want to throw one idea. When Bridget was kind of talking.
I saw you writing frantically. I got nervous.
No. I just had a thought, right? It was just interesting, right? So, right, the idea of like the pie, right? Like how much time we have and how do we want to spend our time, right? So just as she was talking, like a thought came to my mind, right? Like, do we want 2 more board meetings or do we want 2 more community meetings? Like if we're going to take our time and staff time, is another board meeting the way we want to use the time? Or would it be cool to like go, like, you were brainstorming stuff, after the equity summit, right? So maybe we can't keep asking staff to do multiple nights, like, right? But it's like just interesting thoughts. You were saying that, I actually thought about, it's not that I want to do less, like spend less time, right? And like staff did not ask me to say what I said, right? Like that is coming from me. Like I want like to them be able to have the time to do the work, but then also like,
right.
Anyways, that's just a thought. Like we're gonna do more meetings. Maybe we want it to be a community where we're out there, not sitting here.
Right.
But as more time for
I just just to point it out, I know we shouldn't be bringing new stuff in the middle of the meeting, but high school, one thing that they do, is that they do the board meetings as a big event. Every month they go to a different site and they invite the community and they push like people to actually come and be part of the meeting with that site. But putting it out. As you were.
We talked about that like last year, the year before, right? We've talked about that before, and I think Zoom has kind of changed it a little bit, right? In terms of
logistical is trickier.
Yeah, it's a little bit trickier.
And there's a piece related to like your meetings, like for the public, it's supposed to be regularly scheduled, regular place. So there's a tricky space with that too. If you're like constantly going from places, it's, right, it's not necessarily easy for public. So there's a piece.
Well, they do it.
I thought
It must be legal because they do it.
I thought they did office hours in different schools, they do board meetings.
I don't think
No,
their
they do the
meetings
whole
are.
meeting. They whole meeting, they don't have a boardroom where they do the meetings. They go, every meeting is in a different high school.
What school, what district?
Fremont High School,
Yeah.
our high school district.
They have both. I
Yeah, but I don't think they use it every month. They go all around. They go to each
There's high
side.
schools that do that.
Is that Cupertino or is that high school district?
No, high school district.
The
also
high
do
school
it.
district has their annual school presentations at the school sites.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, they get the presentation and they do, like, they invite the community and they make a whole thing.
So maybe 5 times a year they do it that way.
Correct.
Okay. So
So are we adding a board meeting or are we adding a community meeting? I think it's
We're having a
direction to
board
get that.
meeting and then we'll see what we do in spring,
Yeah.
how we add it. And when maybe in the spring, we decided to add instead of staff loaded issues, we just do a governance thing to resolve an issue or a problem or
Yeah.
something.
Or reduce a community meeting for the LCAP
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that, or something that's blended with the equity summit for next year or something.
Yep.
Maybe
Yeah.
something like that.
There you go.
I'm not supposed to call him.
Is we doing the LCAP like we do your triennial IEP?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a nice,
Yes,
but bigger.
I am familiar with one of these.
yes.
Okay, so this is review and discussion, so there is no vote. So I think that now we can move to a review and discussion of C, 8C, which is, wait, let me read it completely. A review and discussion the 22-23 board meeting calendar for this year. And there have been quite a few amendments and all of them are there. Mike?
Okay, so it's a little bit self-explanatory. We actually changed the November or the June meeting on November 17th. And so the proposal is to consider moving it back. As I stated previously, it was originally 2 weeks apart, so staff can live with that. When it came the opportunity to have it 3 weeks apart, staff prefers that, but we can live with it either way. I would say that, and Michelle kind of referenced this, we really should get to a point where we're really trying not to change the schedule, because that is the definition of a regular meeting. When we refer to a regular meeting, it's so that it's predictable, it's posted, it's in the same location, the same time. But that doesn't mean we can't change this if that's the preference of the board.
Yeah, so I think I'm the guilty party here, that I just like noticed in January when we finished our reservations for the scout trip on the rafting trip, that I'm gonna be leaving, I'm not even sure where the mountain is, but it's like over 6 or 7 hours away, somewhere before noon. I'm gonna be leaving that after a 5-day rafting trip with gonna be driving at least 6 scouts in the car. We're gonna stop many times, we're gonna have lunch. So my idea is that I will be able to make it in one piece and somehow clean enough by 6 p.m. And change my uniform. But I don't know, it's gonna be challenging to be here at 6 p.m. without the scout uniform and the mud and everything, etc., and make sure that I'm here. So I was like, if there is a way to change it for the week before, would be great. But I'm understand and I don't have to be here that day. So if I don't make it, I'll make it. If I make it, then will be great. So I just think, no? Yeah. So then public comment on this, if there is any public comment on this item, raise your hand. Electronic hand, no? Okay, now board, any comments?
Nancy, did you have a comment on this one?
Yeah, my preference would be to keep it as posted.
What is the 15th or the 22nd?
22nd.
Well, Coburn just soft retired, so he like semi-retired. He's taking a year off to keep the pressure off of himself, so his wife also doesn't freak out because he's like retired now. He has a lot of time and he's very relaxed. And
That's annoying.
yeah, I mean, like, he's like, "Wait, this is awesome." And so, it's great, and he's, I told him, I said, well, June 23rd, we're ready to go. And he said, wait, I thought it was the 15th, because on our old calendar, it was still, like on our family calendar, I still had it the 15th. So he got kind of frowning, like, oh, really, I have to wait a whole week? And I'm like, what are you doing? He's just golfing and hanging out. So, I guess our family preference is that the summer starts earlier for us, but I'm flexible and we'll just do whatever's the right thing to do.
And just a reminder, like the original change, right, because I am not
Right.
available on the 15th. So I had in Packer review, like thrown out, like I for sure can't, Isabel is a maybe, right? So if we plan on that day, right, and then even if she can't make it here, but then she can join on Zoom.
Well, I'm gonna be driving and not gonna be joining from
Wait,
Zoom.
so you have to have 3 people in person, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So,
So you need to be here, Bridget.
yeah, apparently.
Because you could
So
come
the 20
online from Acapulco, but.
That's too bad, yeah, so the 22nd. So the 15th, for sure, Michelle cannot be there, and you're a maybe?
I'm a maybe, that's the thing.
Okay, and the
Yeah, I'll definitely
22nd,
try to make it, but
are
you
you,
know,
the
anything
22nd,
happen.
you're a no?
No, the 22nd maybe,
No,
so,
that's
so like
22nd.
essentially,
Or
I'm
maybe
not
on-
available 15th, she's not available 22nd, except that I'm for sure not available on the 15th. She's a maybe not available on the 22nd.
Oh my God.
And I'm not positive that it's true there have to be 3 people in person. If we're, depending on how we're posting a person who's
It might be
remote.
just 3 people in the district.
Right, so if someone, well, and there's 2 different pieces of legislation. There's the old fashioned piece of legislation that says if you post the address where the person is, I think we might be able to get it, I would have to check. But I think what you're referencing is the new law, which we're not using that legislation,
All right,
but I might be wrong.
okay.
So, oops. Okay.
Were you gonna say something, Nancy?
So,
I just remembered I'm becoming a grandparent again.
Congratulations.
That's exciting.
And that date in June 22nd now, all of a sudden may become really relevant because it's at the end of June and second babies sometimes come sooner. So whatever works for folks.
So 15th, you're a no and you're a maybe.
No, she
No,
can.
I can come on a.
Okay.
I'm confused.
I'm so confused.
I'm a maybe in the 22nd, but okay in the 15th.
Okay, and you're a no on 15th.
Yes.
Okay.
15.
And if we make too many changes, which, I don't know, we've been talking about this the whole year, we probably won't, but, we cannot assume too many changes. The staff might enjoy an extra week to figure it out, the LCAP, but I don't know. Hopefully we won't make changes at the last minute.
So
Or you gotta give me some direction.
Okay.
So are we saying that the 15th is what we prefer? We can.
I vote to move it to the 15th if we were gonna vote, but we're not gonna vote because it's not that, but
everyone show your
I'm okay
preference.
and I won't get offended and I understand and just go for it, yeah.
Okay, sorry. One more time, can someone explain very slowly who's available on what day?
Okay, so 22nd is what we currently have scheduled. It's on the 22nd because I am not available on the 15th.
Right.
She just found out about the scout thing with her kids that she helps with.
Right.
So she gets back on the 22nd.
Okay,
So she wants it on the 15th because she can be there. The 22nd, she's a maybe.
okay.
Now Nancy is a maybe on the 22nd.
Well, Nancy can be on the 15th too, right? If it's a baby.
And we can say
You
that.
can't find around babies, you just can't.
To be on Mexico on a beach before that, but
I'm
she
available
can do
anytime.
it, yeah, she can do it.
I'm available and I'm here. See, so like for me, like I don't know, I mean, honestly, like when I got on the board, like it was pretty clear, like if, like, you know, we're not supposed to be like starting our vacation earlier than the rest of the district, and like I just think I appreciate everyone's trying to be accommodating and trying to like do things with their kids and their families and everything, but it's like, it's a lot, like, are we just saying, well, so like then we just don't have a board meeting at the end because everyone's gonna be gone doing their own thing? Like
We have to approve the LCAP budget.
I know, that's what I'm saying, like, so, like, this is an issue, like, this is an issue, it's not a new issue. The beginning and the end of summer are complicated, and it's cheaper to go and do things at other times when everyone's still in school or whatever.
But I do just wanna throw out, both Isabel and my things are not fun vacation things, like, I'm leading a group of 80 girls, she's leading Boy Scouts, like, that's different than like.
Super fun. That sounds super fun.
Okay, they're definitely not vacations that we are going to relax on.
And again, I try to make it, and I have been here the whole time, I don't think I
They
have
are
failed
enrichment
any.
activities.
Yeah.
Are personal.
Yeah.
And like, this is business, this is the LCAP and stuff, so, you know, I think that everyone should take a big reflection point and just, like, we just need to figure out how we can make sure we have at least 3 people here. So I will be here. Eileen, it sounds like you're available for either meeting, and we just need to have a guaranteed 3 people here. All COVID and vomiting and other stuff aside, like, which
So,
we have
and I
no
think
control
we
over.
will have, because it will be 100% me for a third person here on the 15th, and it will be 100% a third person on the 22nd. So we're gonna have 3 people in person inside the district for sure. And I think this is the only meeting so far that I'm gonna miss since I started the board, if I miss it. I will try not to, and again, and maybe I can come at 7 or 8, I don't know.
No one wants to show up exhausted and like, you know what I mean, like you've gotta, you know.
So I think the 3 of you just need to give your preference and then we give it to Mike and we move on.
Okay.
Just keep it the way it is.
So,
Okay,
okay,
let's keep it the way it is.
okay, we'll miss you as well.
Okay.
Enjoy your
She
trip.
might
That's
make
fine.
it, and I'm totally okay with her in her Scouts uniform.
Yeah, you can come in.
No mud.
I'll take you in your mud, Isabel.
She's a backpack. Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's.
Decision made.
Good, so now,
Stays as it
is.
Stays as it is. The AD is discussion on delegate assembly voting process. And I do have the contact person here as the superintendent, but I think he told me that the exposition might be better explained by Bridget.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay, so it came up in a SCCSB planning meeting that we were having, that in some districts, what they do for delegate assembly, like in the past, not everybody went to SCCSBA, right? But now I think we all attend and we all know most of the people who are running, or a lot of the people who are running. It's a huge ballot this time. It's 11 people who are all super qualified, and there's 6 spots available. And I think traditionally, a lot of people just go for people who are already delegates, and like you have to kind of fight your way in, and you're lucky if you get in. This year, I think the candidates are so good across the board that it's really anybody could be a delegate. So we have had on the board, since I've been on the board, there have been a couple of contentious discussions about the slate. So what I heard, one way that couple other boards do it that I thought was really good that we might want to try, is I don't know exactly how you set it up to approve it so that you have a motion somehow, but you discuss all the candidates and then everyone votes their own slate. So everyone votes and then we hand it to Jesus or to the clerk and they tally it up and that's who we vote for. And then there's no arguing like, well, because everyone gets to say like why they're all so awesome. Like we can go over their stuff, we can have a discussion, who we're thinking of, who we like for it, why they're awesome. If there's any concerns, we can talk about that. Then you don't have to feel guilty if you don't vote for me personally. I'll be heartbroken, but it's okay because anyone who goes this year is going to be awesome. And so I just think that I really appreciate this board putting me on the ballot, and I'm sure Nancy feels the same way. Like, but I just think that there's so many great candidates. Then it's not judgy because everybody has a different, interest of who might get on there, and then the majority. And if there's a tiebreaker, then we can discuss it. That would be my preference because I think there was just enough weirdness in the discussion last time, or one of those times, that it just caused some discomfort because there was like some misunderstanding or something. No, it's just an idea. I don't know what you think about it. And I didn't want to just do it and say like the day of, let's do it that way. So I thought we'd just have a discussion about it. And there's going to be speeches at the February 22nd meeting. So all the delegates are going to be speaking. We've got bios for all 11 of them. Next week, but you'll have all the bios anyway. So if you don't attend the meeting because it's vacation, then enjoy your vacation. You'll miss a really wonderful meeting. But which is going to be fabulous because it's going to have a whole bunch of the Juvenile Justice Coalition is going to be there. But anyway, so that would be my recommendation, because then people can just actually vote for who they want to vote for without trying to have to convince everybody else.
So now we have time for public comments on this item. If anyone in the audience online want to be part of this conversation and have their comments, you can have 2 minutes. Raise your hand now. The electronic hand. Is not nobody? Okay. So now, board, please share your questions and comments. I just wanted to say that we've been getting, I got at least a couple of emails about writing in, and that's another thing that you can do if we do it like one by one instead of as a board.
Yeah, I mean, they're sending them to, there's 4, some of those people didn't send them to me because I'm on the ballot, so they're like, they sent it to the rest of my board except for me. I don't know if that happened to Nancy. I was like, what?
I only got 2.
We've only got. You guys have only got 2? Okay. I was like, oh, because there's 4 people.
I thought you got another year. This is your.
No, yeah, I'm not.
So.
Because you did.
Yeah.
So, what I would say is that, I like that idea because different people have different philosophies about, do we vote a full slate? Do we just vote for those candidates that we feel strongly about? And I think that was the awkwardness of it, rather than individuals who were going forward with delegate assembly. So I think that they would get a sense of freedom and that everybody would be able to have their own individual voice. So I appreciate you bringing that to us as an option.
Yeah, and if you felt like, oh, traditionally, we always support our own and we're gonna like make sure Nancy and Bridget are on there, we can just vote for 4. If you wanted to do that, we could, but I actually don't like that idea. I actually think that everyone should just vote for 6 and do what you want to do. I mean,
okay.
I'm good with doing it, but based on what Nancy said, if there was discomfort around, do we do 6 or do we just do ones we like? I don't think this solves that problem, because then there would be 6.
I don't think that was the issue. You can just vote for 1 or 2. You don't have to vote for
But I mean, say like if I only vote for 2 people, that doesn't mean only 2 people are getting pushed on, everyone else, right? So I'm saying like, even if I only choose to vote for 2 people.
That's right.
Correct.
Us as a board is still sending 6 out. So if there are concerns about whether we send 6 or not, that would have to be a separate discussion.
That's right. And we could have that discussion before we did that as well.
Yeah.
Because we could say, how many are we voting for here?
Yeah.
But
I'm good trying it.
you're gonna try it? Okay, so we'll plan that for next time then. Okay.
For this time,
For this time,
Yes.
yeah, this time, next
next week.
meeting.
Yeah, good.
Good.
We'll get to that. Okay, so that's our item 8 all done, that's review and discussion. So now we are moving in consent agenda items and where I have my screen here, how we approve them. Sorry about that, 1 second. Oh, there it is. So any item in the consent agenda is subject to review and discussion prior to being approved by the board. If necessary, any items that may be removed from a separate action if we want to, so the public may address the board regarding any particular item on this agenda. If there is any member of the public who wishes to speak on this item, which is the consent agenda items, please raise their hand right now with the electronic feature at the bottom of your screen. No one? Okay, so board, do you want to pull anything out of the agenda, or if there is a motion to approve the agenda as it is right now?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
A second.
Second, okay. If you all approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, Nancy?
I said aye.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. So if there is, chair full aye, so we pass the consent agenda items. And now we move to item 10, which is future meetings and adjourning of this meeting. The next meeting will be on Thursday, March 9th at 6 p.m. as a regular board meeting here at the district. And we are adjourning this meeting at 8:55. We made it before 9. Yeah.
Good night. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Nancy.
Bye, Nancy.
Bye, Nancy.
Nancy. Thank you, Fabiola. Thank you, Monica.